The recording is in progress. Excellent. All right, good morning. It is session 2 of Breakthrough 120. We are on lead follow-up. Last week we talked about database. There'll be more conversation about database, of course, but we're going to be talking about follow-up and the importance of doing that. I'll also make sure you understand that I think that when we do follow-up, we shouldn't say follow-up. I think that's a terrible idea. I think if people hear you saying follow-up, they are without fail going to absolutely probably check out mentally and think, oh, I'm just on a list of things that he has to do. So he's saying follow-up. And I hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't, hopefully at some point it makes sense. I'm going to slide that up there. Everyone at home can see the screen, which is great. Questions, comments, concerns, just unmute and chat away. And we're going to move through. There's a QR code right there for your workbook if you want to follow along at home. The workbook is available through that QR code. And of course, this will be on the YouTubes in the coming days. We are uploading session 1 through 5. And just so everyone understands too, when we get to the August session, we're doing all of these in Mondays, right? So we have 3 more Mondays after this for session 3, 4, and 5. Then when we get to August, our August, September, October, and November rounds of Breakthrough 120 are going to be done in a week. So we will be doing them in a Monday through Friday cadence. And we're going to try that for a little bit. So we'll be moving away from the Mondays, 5 Mondays in a row, and just go to a full week in August, September, October, and November. And you'll hear more about that as we get close. So here we go. All right, Breakthrough. The goal in Breakthrough 120 is to have 10 real estate conversations a day, 5 days a week, for the next 120 days to set up your 9 agreements. And it's about the 120 is really, can you stay in 120 days of lead generation? Are you interacting and conversing with people consistently insofar as having conversations where real estate comes up? It's not about being salesy. Nobody wants to be salesy. I completely understand that. But when somebody says, how are things going? Or somebody says, how is work? What is your answer? How are you replying? You're taking that as an opportunity to talk about real estate. That's the challenge. That's what we want to work on and make sure we're getting better at every day. Part 1, the foundation. Of course, we did database last week, lead follow-up. Then we'll go to appointments. Next Monday, the Monday after that, open houses. And then we'll wrap up with social media. Part 2, and this is not necessarily in order, but all of the things happening in part 2 happen at our market center, right? Lead generation accountability at our market center. That's the midday protocol at 12 o'clock today and every day at 12 o'clock. Not necessarily every day at 12 o'clock. We do take breaks if we're having something going on. But most days at 12, there's an opportunity to have a conversation about what you did or didn't do. So that's our accountability. So that first block right next to that, you can write down midday protocol. Conversation framework practice. This is you finding your person to make sure that you are doing script and role play every day. And if not every day, the intention of doing it every day. I know when we get into bold, we're like, I'm going to find a script and role play partner. We're encouraged to do that. And then you find somebody and you guys agree to maybe do it twice a week, and then it doesn't happen at all. Kellerman's here. We used to get into it because I would say to Kellerman, you know, if you're not taking my call, because we were agreeing like 7:15 or 7:30, I can't really remember. And I said to Kellerman, like, if you don't pick up when I call, because we left it to the point where she would call me or I would call her, whoever called first was sort of running the call. And we would go right into it. And I finally said to Kellerman to hold ourselves to account. I'm like, if we don't pick up when the other person calls, the other person has the right to snipe the other person all day long. So the next time somebody called, you had to pick up no matter what you were doing. So that's our conversation framework practice. Are you doing some sort of script and role play during the day? Then proven lead generation strategies. You're finding those out during, of course, what we call now KW Breakthrough Club, which is going on right now in the other Zoom room where people are doing lead gen. And then mindset and motivation. I would say that's James Shaw in the morning. I would say that's your quick start in the morning. So that's how we're covering part 2 here at our market center. And that's where you find those things as well. You guys can see the QR codes for both of those. Breakthrough Club is every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to noon. Midday Protocol happens at 12. We do not have Midday Protocol necessarily every day. Midday Protocol won't take place if we've got all partners or something like that. But for the most part, it's every day. That's our accountability every day. So today, lead follow-up. Going to utilize the functions of Command or your chosen CRM. Even Gary put your chosen CRM because not everybody's using Command. Reminder though, everyone has access to Command. That's why you'll hear us talk about it the most. Everybody at our company has access to Command, and you have to use it at some point. You're going to get to the point where you have to use it for opportunities to get paid. That's pretty important. Customize the type of smart plan you'll use with each contact, and then establish the habit of regularly updating the database with information you gather about your contacts. So here's a progress report. Number of contacts added to your database. And this is something we want to look at. I mean, it'd be great to look at it every day for sure. Because we're checking in with these numbers, of course, on a regular basis at Midday Protocol. So take a moment between last Monday and this Monday. How many people did you add to your database? And then the number of TCPA compliant calls you made, right? Telephone Consumer Protection Act. If somebody isn't unmet, we should be making sure they're not on the do not call list. If they're on the do not call list, we do not call them. If we check to make sure they're not on the do not call list and then we call them and then they claim they're on the do not call list and we know that they're not because we just checked, we're not going to get into a fight with them. We're going to excuse ourselves from the call and wish them a great day. No need to get into a wrestling match with them. Number of conversations you had, right? And you'll hear me on the Midday Protocol say, there's the three lead indicators we always talk about. Conversations and interactions. So maybe you ran into somebody in the parking lot at Hannah Foods, or maybe you texted back and forth. Like those are interactions. Conversations, obviously one-to-one on the phone, right? And then real estate follow-up opportunities. Have you started to call people back? And the challenge with this, people are just like, okay, well, what do I say this time? This is why it's important to go into your CRM of choice and make sure that you're taking notes. Otherwise, it's going to feel like Groundhog Day. It's going to feel like every conversation you're having is you're starting over again. So I'll be like, hey, Kate, how's it going? And like I'm having the same conversation. And you're just like, what is he doing? So we want to make sure that we are taking notes so we can pick up where we left off. If you think about your great relationships, and if anybody's running into their friends this summer, you've got that close friend. It doesn't matter how long it's been. You're going to go out to dinner with them or meet them at the beach, and it's like carrots and peas again. Like you get along. There's no challenge, and like there's no, it's not awkward. And you can make it feel that way when you get on the phone with them if you take notes. The number one reason people don't pick up the phone in the first place is they don't want to be salesy. They don't want to bother their people. The reason we don't make the follow-up call is like, I don't know what to talk about this time. And it's just have a continuation of the conversation. And every time you finish a call, just say, I'll talk to you soon. That's inferring the next conversation. Not like, hey, do you mind if I call? Don't ask, but I've never in my life asked permission to call somebody I care about back. Do you mind if I call you back? My wife would probably prefer if I asked that question, but other than that, most people don't mind if I call them back. So if we're talking to the people that we know and love and trust, the next conversation, the next interaction should be inferred anyway. And then what challenges have you had? So in the last week, anybody want to share challenges they've had in having conversations, in loading the database, in talking to the humans, in building their business?
Oh, I had used this.
You gotta grab the talking stick. Sorry. Debbie's live in studio. She's grabbing the talking stick.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I had a case where conversation transition to I'm on a submarine and I want to buy something as soon as I get off. Can you help me look now?
I'm on a submarine.
Can you start helping me look now? In Connecticut, I'll be back July 3rd.
So they're in the military or they're a spy. Either way,
They're
it's
in the military.
it's a great
yes,
story.
Yes,
either way.
young guy.
Okay.
And of course, I'm happy to help.
Sure.
So you know, he's able to get spot checks and see internet. Can you look at this place? Can you look at that place? So now I ask him, is there anybody that you would like to have come with me? A good friend, family, as opposed to me going on my own looking out for him. Nope, Deb, you can do this. So I start going and he knows I'm going at X o'clock on Saturday. And he calls me
0
15
dark
minutes.
30, yeah, of course.
15 minutes before I'm going to go in, this is under challenge. And he said, I need you to promise to do me something. I said, yes. And he said, if you get squeamish, if you sense any auras in the building, if you sense any ghost activity or spirit activity, I need to know immediately and I need you to leave because I can tell you right now, I'm not interested.
Not his jam.
And I was waiting for him to laugh, but he wasn't laughing.
Mhm.
He was dead serious. And then I didn't say anything. And he said, you've heard this before, haven't you?
Well, not yet,
Which
because
I
you just,
haven't.
yeah, you haven't, 'cause you just landed. Yeah, like I think Kellerman and Grassy and Marion are probably not shocked by his comments.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
So,
it's not a crazy thing.
no, it's not. Okay.
No, well, go ahead, finish your story.
So, well, I'll tell you how I handled it at the
Sure.
time, totally caught off guard. So I said to him, well, I said, I have heard that people can be spooked by this, but let me tell you something, Ben. My antenna for sensing ghosts in facilities is not that great. I've never had these kinds of feelings.
Yeah.
I tend to be very positive. I tend to walk into places and
Sure.
look for the good.
Yep.
So you know what? Because you asked me to focus on this, I'm going to focus on it, but I can't promise you that I'm going to view a property the same way that you might.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I answered it.
Yeah, sure. Any of the veterans on the screen, if you could unmute, if you could share, if you've had an experience like that, because I have, it wasn't exactly like that, but it was pretty close. Anybody want to unmute and share? Go ahead.
We've
Perfect.
had-
Kate.
We've had a few people tell us that haunted houses are a no-go for them. Erica Hauser is actually very sensitive to that kind of stuff, and she took me to my first haunted house. And it's so funny because it was with a couple and she was also sensitive to it, and they knew right away. They're like, this is not for us. And I was like, kind of like you, Debbie, where I was like, I don't feel a thing.
Yep. My tail is not tingling. Yeah, I get that. So honestly, this obviously goes back a ways because it was when I was selling, but this is probably like my sophomore year, and I'm walking up a driveway. We're in, I want to say Newmarket, and we're walking up a driveway, and the husband, like they're sort of like trailing next to me, and the husband's just like, and all of a sudden I didn't sense the footsteps stop, but then the husband's just like, Tim, and I'm like, yeah, and I turn around and his wife is like 7 feet behind him, and he's like, we're not going in. I'm like, everything okay? And she just looks at me and she's like, no. And I walk over to the husband, I'm like, what do we got going on? Because this is my first time I ever, right? I'd had people ask me on the phone, like, hey, do you know? Because, and this is the other thing we need to remember too. When it comes to traumatized properties, you have the ability to ask, right? And they share if you ask. We automatically assume that it would be a client like what Kate experienced, or a client like mine in the driveway that just stopped and she wasn't moving any further because she already sent something, or your guy on the sub. There's always going to be 3 categories. There's going to be people that are ambivalent to it. There's going to be people that are into it. Like, I'm looking for a house with a ghost, right? Which is ridiculous. And it's not. I shouldn't say it's ridiculous. It's fantastic. Or they're going to stop at the driveway.
Yeah.
And they're not going to walk
Yeah.
any closer. So like, we have to understand, like, I think we hear traumatized property and like, not to be macabre, but like people are like, oh, that's cool. I have no issue with that. Because you look at people, like if Doyle was on, and she'll probably jump on at some point, but like Doyle predominantly sells, like, when I first met her, I called her Sue Doily, because she sold houses that every table had a doily. Like, she sells a lot of stuff in Portsmouth that's like ancient.
Victorian.
Yeah, and you're not
Yeah.
buying an old house in New England that somebody wasn't born in the bathtub and shot in the basement. Like, it's just, not to be cold on a Monday, but like we're in the oldest housing in the country.
Yes.
You don't go to California and like, oh, look at that salt box. Not happening, right? So I think we need to be aware of that too. I think you handled it right. I think the other thing you should remind him too is like, I appreciate you making me hypersensitive to this. I'll do my best,
Yeah.
but I've never in all my years moving with my husband ever had a tingle or any sense. So I'm not sure that I'll necessarily be a great barometer for that, but I'll be aware. And I can certainly, Ben, on your behalf, ask if this is a traumatized property, if there's any history of anything. That's the best you can do.
Yeah, thank
Because
you.
I think outside of being clairvoyant or having that sensitivity, and I completely, like, I know there's people like, oh, I don't believe in that. I absolutely, just from conversations I've had with people, I think people have that gift.
Yeah.
They have that sense. Like Erica Hauser, Kate was just saying, Erica Hauser on her team can tell you if something's going on. I don't. I don't. I can tell you, but at the same time, could we mix up that feeling of like we've all bought a place and we've all walked in and you're like, I'm feeling this or I'm not feeling this. So there's a piece of that every American feels.
Yeah.
And then there's like, this room is cold or I smell smoke and it's a new build. Like what's going on, right? You know, so yeah, I think you did the right thing. The one thing to remember too, when you bring somebody on someone's behalf, I would sign them,
Yeah.
right? So in your absence, Ben, since we're going, I need your friend Jeff to sign paperwork with me because I can't show properties to somebody who's not signed, right?
Yeah.
Because we just have to remember we're supposed to be working with people that we're working with. And Jeff can understand that he's going as a proxy, but for legalese because he's out underwater, right?
Right.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
That was
Oh,
Kate.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, everything that Tim said about explaining to this gentleman that, you know, you don't possess that gift but you can be on the lookout and you can ask if properties have been traumatized. I would express that to him in an email, just so you have a written record that you did tell him that.
Perfect.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Great job, Kate. Great job. Thank you. Awesome. All right, we've been talking about fear, and it's funny this is how this sort of came about. Gary, we were told maybe 2 years ago at family reunion that Gary was like doing this huge study on fear, right? Fearful, being fearful or fearless, and obviously it was to work on this class. Consider your fears. Look at your fears from the previous session. Which one of these no longer affects you in the same way? Do you have you had new fears come up, which I would argue is going to happen throughout the entirety of your career? If you're not running into stuff that challenges you, you're probably not running into stuff. That means you're not moving. Classify your new fears about being a real estate agent as rational or irrational. So we've had this conversation. Does anybody have any new rational fears? An irrational fear is, I don't know if I'll be good at this. That would be a rational fear. An irrational fear is, I'm afraid of sharks, so I'm not going to my aunt's pool on the 4th of July, right? Because we could argue there's probably no sharks in the pool. Yes, so that's an irrational fear. So does anybody have a rational or irrational fear they want to share?
Well, I will share one.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to kind of get some conversation going. So I started this venture with the confidence that a toddler has approaching everything, which is nothing will ever happen to me and I'm going to be great at this. And, you know, as I start to get more involved and meet people, I'm starting to see, well, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. There are a lot of personalities that, you know, I thought this was more logic based, and I'm sensing it is very emotional. People buy and see and view with emotion, and that's not how I'm wired. So I don't know if I would use the fear, but I would say, you know, it's kind of put me on my heels a little bit that I've got to now use a different part of my brain to understand people's emotions. And it's making me work in an area I'm not typically used to working. So I've got to now address concerns on an emotional level versus a logical level. So, you know, another example, this just happened last week where I showed a property to a client buyer. He was very excited about this. He and his wife looked at it. They loved it as they were walking through. I said, let's talk later tonight. Let me know what your thoughts after you guys have had a chance to talk. So I called them back as a follow-up. And it was like I was talking to a different person. And he said to me, he goes, Debbie, he goes, you noticed that neighbor. And, of course, when you go in, you got to look around. You can't just look at the property. You got to
Yeah.
look at, is there smoke billowing out at the house next door? Or is there a highway that's,
Yep.
providing a lot of noise? So there was a neighbor that had just loads of trash outside, cars without wheels sitting in the front yard, completely unkempt, completely in disarray. You might not even know anyone lives there, except you can see on the dirt drive in
Oh, yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's well traveled. And he said, you had to have noticed that. And I said, I did. Now, there was a lot of trees between what would be this property we were looking at, his property, and this other property. And this is the part that kind of caught me on my heels, and I didn't quite know what to say. He said, I am not effing living next to a MAGA Republican. So there's a lot there, right?
This, a little bit to unpack. That's a different class. Yeah.
There's a lot there. And so I said to him, I go, well, and I'm trying to lighten the mood. I go, Joel, you could look at this as this is a challenge. Maybe you can convert somebody.
Yep.
And so I started laughing. He goes, no, seriously. He goes, would you live next to something like that? And so, I kind of dismayed it a little bit. I go, there's no property that's perfect. There's a lot of trees in
Yep.
between.
Yep.
I can understand if it's not something you're interested in, and we'll
Yep.
move on. And
Yep.
I'm going to keep that in mind
Yep.
as I look at other properties.
Yep.
So any ideas, guys, or Tim, about, if somebody comes out with what I would call a pretty prejudicial statement, how to address it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we certainly don't want to, I would never go down that road outside of the fact that, I completely appreciate that, maybe their yard doesn't suit what you want on the perimeter of your property. I get that. At the same time, I'm not going to be able to go and door knock the neighborhood of every house that you want to go look at and ask for their voting records respectfully. That's exactly how I would say it. See, I mean, I always have. I sort of live at the corner of F and U. Like, I'm not gonna placate them because they feel a certain way about X, Y, or Z. I'm just gonna obviously
Yeah.
state the obvious. We're talking about a property. We're talking about the condition of the property and how it sits on the periphery of your property. Go ahead.
So, I mean, people that know me know where I stand, but I will tell you, my clients never know where I stand at all unless they happen to find my private Facebook page. But I've had many, many clients on both sides have that sentiment. When Biden, Kamala Harris were running, I had the same reaction from people. And so I just always say, hey, listen, I can't control or steer you anywhere you want to go. However, you need to take a drive through the neighborhood and make sure it's a neighborhood you're going to feel comfortable in. And it doesn't just happen with politics. It happens with people that are from any of the classes, you name it. They may feel uncomfortable in certain areas. And I've had clients be like, can I just have a gay-friendly neighborhood and a gay-friendly realtor? And I'm like, you can, but you have to do that research on your own. Your realtor cannot, say this is the gay neighborhood. They can say, go look at the Facebook pages and see where people seem to like to live. You have to be very tactful. And when you have these conversations, you really want to make sure your client does not have an idea of where you sit or what you think on it. So when you're addressing their concerns, the best way is please drive the neighborhood, especially during, this upcoming November election. You're going to see where everyone sits, and you're going to see if you're comfortable in that area, if you're comfortable in that town. And if you're not, let me know. We'll focus on a different area. But as an agent, I can't go do that for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And beyond all that too, like, okay, but we're looking at a house in which you want to put your kids through this school system because you're excited about the school system and your kids are in kindergarten. So we're probably going to put our stakes in the ground for 18 years. that's going to be multiple presidencies, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like all that's going to change. But I'd get them back to their focus. Why are we looking at this house in this town? And it was probably driven by a lifestyle choice, a familial choice, educational, medical, proximity to something, right? But like we have to be super guarded in what we're saying. Like you can't, like, you can't say when you're sitting with a family and you know their faith because they've shared it with you in conversation, you can't then have an open house and have that in the back of your mind and say, well, there's a temple nearby, so I'm going to mention that so it pops for the Jewish community. We're not doing that, right?
Right.
We would always say, and it's still probably skirts on the line, is, close to municipalities and school systems and houses of faith.
Yeah,
But I mean, yeah,
yeah.
because you can't even say families now. Groups.
Really?
Yeah.
Another thing to think about, Debbie, when somebody feels that strongly about a particular political affiliation, and it happens to be like the neighbor or maybe several people in the neighborhood, you could point out every good thing about the house, and maybe they decide to, look past it and make an offer and go under contract. It's just like they're never going to be 100% in because of that. So it's going to be like an uphill battle. Like God forbid, there's an appraisal issue or if something comes up on the inspection. Like you're not just now negotiating with the other side, you're kind of having to negotiate with your client a little bit.
Right.
So if it's, I don't like these paint colors, that's one conversation. But if it's like, I hate the neighbor, you might be better off just saying, okay, you know what, let's keep looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's also, it sounds like that was a presumptuous comment that he made.
Yes,
Were
yes,
were
exactly.
there any political flags up
There
front?
was no.
He was just making the assumption based on the condition of the home.
Right.
So all that aside, like, then I would just honestly, if you back it out a little bit more, just like, hey, Stan, it sounds like you want a property that's got a little bit more mature growth around it, so you have your privacy, or we're going to get you out. I mean, I can tell you, Stratford, everybody has 5 acres.
Yeah,
Like my cat has 5 acres. Like,
Yeah.
like you don't see your neighbors. You're not door knocking Stratford.
Right,
You get in the car and then drive 3 miles, then you door knock again. So like
right,
you'd have more privacy in a certain town, right?
right.
As opposed to maybe a condensed urban area where, you don't have the privacy that you want, because clearly
Yeah.
it sounds like he wants the privacy.
So I know, so thank you guys for listening to me and helping me here. And this slide is about fear. So the reason why I brought this up as an example is I started a few months ago, I got licensed, and with the utmost confidence, I'm going to do great in this. And now fears are starting to set in, real fears that, oh my goodness, I have to be a psychologist. I have to really be ready for some of these things that I would say are emotional based that I wasn't prepared for. And I don't know if that's role playing, Tim, or what, or just experiences.
Well, so first and foremost, bold law, logic makes them think, emotion makes them act. Because you talked about people are going to shop emotionally, right?
Yeah.
Like logic is going to make them be like, okay, does this make sense? Does this make sense? But the emotion, the heartstrings are going to make them pull the trigger on a house,
Right.
right? There's going to be something about it that makes like a structure, which we would call a house, turns into a home when there's an emotional tie.
Yeah.
That's why I'm always so fascinated when people don't want to sell at the holidays. I'm like, when your house smells like spruce and gingerbread, like capitalize on that. Like your house smells like Nana right now, like sell her now, right? So don't forget that. And I think I've been talking about this for a handful of years. I think we're going to win in this industry now if we are more focused on our EQ than our IQ. Like, because you've met some of the people that have passed the real estate test. If we're being honest, right, ladies online, yeah, some of the marbles in the drawer are super sharp. Right. So we don't have a lot of there's a lot of people that aren't necessarily brilliant that are in the industry, but they're probably, if they're successful, they're probably emotionally aware. Right. So I think we need to be able to, I'm saying this for Jason's sake, so he doesn't fall off his perch. We need to be able to read the contract, and just as equally, we need to be able to read the room.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like, so can you understand the emotion that's going on And can you delve into that?
Mhm.
And can you speak to people? And this goes into like the way people communicate. Like people are going to communicate audibly, visually, or understand. They learn audibly, visually, or kinesthetically, right? So like if some people are like, oh, I have to go do, that's a kinesthetic learner, right? Or kinetic learner, sorry. And then if if I can just sit and listen. And for me, when I go to the national events, drives Kaylee crazy. I don't take any notes, but I'll quote Gary in 5 years, word for word, because I want to listen. And obviously men are visual too, so I'm watching too, but like, I need to see you do it. I need to hear you talk about it, or I need to go do it myself. And if we're tying that in, that's why we have you do the DISC and the KPA. And you're not going to hand those to everybody you work with, but a better understanding of how you're wired will help you understand in the field. Okay, this is how this person needs to be spoken with to, the message and the medium, right? And then above and beyond that, you also will get to the point. If you had enough clients, you could probably step away from this guy who might be somebody who you don't want to work with moving forward. Just saying. And I'm not saying because of the way he feels politically. I just don't know if I want that kind of vitriol in my workplace and in my heart that I'm bringing home to my family. Like my job as your coach is to send the best version of you home to your husband. And if you're like, I've got this one client, like he's an asshole, but we're going to power through because he's my one client. I would like you to have 4 more clients.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
And
Yeah.
it'll be a joyous, you knew, it will be a joyous thing rather than a struggle, embarrassment.
Yes.
That's not what it's about. Once you get to be a.
Yeah.
I guarantee Kate's fired somebody, Kellerman's fired somebody.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna get to a point, and honestly, by the time you fire them, they have already burnt you an effigy in their head,
Yeah.
right? So, and I'm not saying to go fire this guy. I think it would be great if you got him into the house he wants to be in and let him be a raving fan for you. But if you keep moving away from conversations with him and he's not focused on his future and the property he's looking for, but he's worried about every American around him and what they are or aren't doing.
You're not. You're able-
Yeah. Yep.
Like, well, that's it. No, but don't tell your neighbor. If you're not, just live your happy life.
Yes.
Be a good neighbor. Plant your garden, be a good neighbor. Stop bringing it up. And he was like, well, what if it's an issue? Well, then stop making it an issue. And he's like, oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Stop forcing your flag up my nose.
Yeah. No, nobody's worried.
Like to say stop, if they were bullying your kid at school, you'd say stop.
Right.
And they think, oh, we're the good people. No, hate and fear is not a family value,
Yeah.
so stop. I'm here to be a realtor. How can I help? Never mind about the other people. The other thing about fear of being perceived as annoying is, I always say to people, so I know you know this. The closing is on Thursday and I'll call you Monday night. Now you've got it, you're not annoying. I'm looking at number one. I can't wait to the meeting.
Mhm.
You're looking at number one, you're not being annoying. Now you got a date to close Monday night. And if you don't, then they're annoying. That makes us not be annoying or pushing. And I know about being annoying or
Yes.
pushing. But it does, it's sad because most people don't know. We know construction, we know legal, we know real estate law stuff. We don't know. We know, so these 1 and 2 time home buyers don't. So it's not being annoying at all. It's like, hey, I'll call you tomorrow. Any more questions, let me know. And we're not annoying, the ones who call all the time. We're the ones they want to hear from. That's why they're paying us and hiring us.
Mhm.
So I'm sorry, I jumped back in the.
You're good. You're good.
And if you have been addressing this problem, that I don't even know what it was, but I found him starting to stop being afraid. And if I feel like, and I didn't hear the first one, you're getting bullied. Like, oh, what about that guy? What about that guy? You know what? Stop. I'm gonna help you buy a house and live your best life and have a great home. No, stop.
Thank you.
Number 2, fear of not having enough value to offer. Don't need to be flashy, just helpful, human and local. Consistency beats creativity. We are always worried, and I know when people are getting started, well, I don't know what to say, or I'd be bothering people, or the infamous cold call. We're calling with some sort of value. There's no such thing as a cold call, unless you are truly calling somebody who you don't know because you just flipped through the yellow pages and pointed your finger at a name and randomly called them, and you don't have a plan, then that could be pretty awful, but you still have value. Fear you're doing something wrong because you aren't getting results. Real estate is follow-up. Real estate follow-ups like gardening. Most of your effort pays off months or years later. So track small wins, one reply, one open, one thanks. And if we're not tracking our data, we can't measure it, right? And if we're not measuring it, we can't grow it. How will you choose to expose yourself to your fears gradually to overcome them? Like, what are you doing differently right now to make sure that you are breaking new grounds in your real estate business? Are you doing anything to make yourself uncomfortable this week, this month, this summer? And it's officially summer. We get to say that now.
So one thing that I signed myself up to do, and I've never done it before, is this particular client has told me that he wants specific areas. I've set him up with a collaboration site, and he keeps rejecting a bunch of things that logically fit. So I had a conversation with him and I said, Joel and Ann, his wife, why don't you guys give me the streets and the neighborhoods that you're targeting? And I am going to write a neighborhood letter. I'm not going to mention you. I'm going to talk about that I'm working with clients who love this neighborhood. And if you, homeowner, have any interest or know of anyone in the neighborhood who's interested in moving on, please let me know. I said, maybe that little bit of proactivity will help me help you focus in these specific areas. And we're not wasting our time in these other areas. And they said, Debbie, that sounds great. Thank you so much. That was Friday. Now I'm here Monday and I'm like, oh, how am I going to do this? So it's a fear again, can I? I'll figure it out. It might be a little clumsy. So how am I overcoming it? I'm talking. I'm calling people. Hey, how would you do this? What do you think about, what I've done here? How would you approach this? What ideas do you have? And even, coming to this class is a big help to me in that respect as well. So that's one example for me.
So your assignment for them was good. Make sure just anytime you have somebody who's maybe jammed up on what they're looking for, they're not finding what they're looking for, don't forget everything's available, right?
Yeah.
So the homework assignment to give them, and maybe you've already done this, is just tell them to go out and drive around in the towns in which they want to be and the streets they want to be on, and just give you addresses. Because as civilians, what's stuck in their head is there are no for sale signs on the street on which I want to live.
Exactly.
We don't care about that because your job is to bring the house to sale, right? So just give me some addresses that you like, then I can go door knock it.
Yeah.
So if you do that letter campaign to a few different streets, I would quickly follow that up with you stopping by some houses and knocking and introducing yourself. Because by the time they get the letter, then you're putting a face to it. And then you're being proactive and having conversations. So if you do send letters, say the Joneses want
Yeah.
these 3 streets in this town, right? And then I would go and then I would knock and bring somebody with you, right?
Yeah.
I would go then knock those streets and just introduce yourself. Hey, Debbie Bowles, I'm sure you received my letter. Just wanted to talk to you. I've got clients that are interested in the property on any one of these 3 streets. And I wanted to see, and I would say this always because I was a jackass and I just wanted to get people's attention. When I would knock, I'd say, I've got clients that are interested in a house on this street. Are you thinking about moving in the next 10, 20, or 30 minutes? Just to get them to wake up, because it breaks the train of thought. It's not, are you thinking about moving in the near future? Right? And you got to be okay with whatever they say, like excited for the opportunity and not attached to the outcome. Because if they answer the door and they're like, yeah, actually, you know what? Nobody shut in the door. It's driving me crazy. We have construction going on in like every room in this building and everybody keeps leaving the door open. Thank you, Debbie. Saying that 10, 20, or 30 minutes just gets them, it stops their train of thought and makes them listen differently. And we've done that. And we've had people say, well, like, yeah, actually, you know what? We just graduated our last short person. We're thinking about making a move. We don't really have a time frame, but this is not our house anymore. But we do have a realtor. Like, I'm going to be super cool if they're like, yep, we're working. Actually, we're going to be working with Kate Grassi. Awesome. Can you tell Kate that Tim Lindsay stopped by? And can you tell Kate that Tim Lindsay wants to know exactly when this is going on the market, right? Or I'd be like, yep, she's actually in my office. I will check in with Kate. right? I'm not worried about like, oh no, I want the listing. I want to double side this. Stop.
Right.
You just got a property that
Yep.
wasn't on the market to come to the market, right? So I think when you start to get away from like they're not finding what they're looking for because it's not available, our job as soon as we have a buyer that's hunting is to go hunting for them, not just like what happened to come up with the MLS on the overnight hot sheet, right? So that would be a best practice, I think, if that's something you're willing to do.
Absolutely.
So lead follow-up here. This is going to be on the quiz at 11:30, so make sure you take notes. I'm just kidding. Lead follow-up. I reach out to leads. That's prospecting. Marketing, I attract leads, right? So the differentiation between prospecting and marketing. Marketing is going to be passive. It's going to cost more of our money and less of our time. And prospecting is going to be less expensive, but it's going to borrow more of our time, right? Because it's going to involve our face, probably a phone we've already paid for. Prospecting, we could, every one of you, whether you want to believe this or not, every one of you could go get a new client today if you prospected to the extent that you know you can. Marketing, on the other hand, and it's not that it's not a good thing to do, but we just have to know most of our marketing is set it and forget it. It might be the billboard, it could be anything. And there can be a call to action with marketing, just like there's a call to action with prospecting, and you're teeing them up for next steps, but you're not there emotionally involved in the conversation, hearing how they're replying, hearing the words they're choosing. They're not hearing the words that you're choosing with the passion and tonality, which we know is really important, right? So prospecting will always be more effective than marketing. Marketing long-term is going to draw people into conversation with you. So it could be the first step, but we do also have to understand with our marketing, the investment doesn't need to be cost prohibitive, but it is going to be long-term. So it might feel that way over time. And then we want to red light, green light stuff. We're going to talk about this on Thursday with the business planning clinic that's here in Portsmouth in person all day. We'll feed you lunch. I'll have you out of here by 4 o'clock. We do a halftime business planning clinic because a lot of people went to business planning clinic in the fall and took copious notes, and now it's the end of June and they're like, what was I going to do this year? So join us for that. We'll talk about marketing and prospecting. Marketing, for sure, you have to understand that like if you're doing a newsletter, it's going to take time for it to get some teeth. If you bought a park bench, I don't know. And I don't think you'll ever know. Like there are some things now, and this is where I'm challenged with some of the marketing that people are still using. There just aren't analytics. They can tell you with your park bench, they'll tell you with your billboard, this is how many cars pass that area. Sure. You don't have analytics necessarily that you can push in front of a client and impress them. That's why moving to social media and using that as your billboard where it's not cost prohibitive, because unless you're buying ads, which people do, going on is free. Actually, and this is for anybody who's listening, Gary Vee, if you go on his YouTube channel, anybody that was in Atlanta, he put about 12 minutes of him addressing us in Atlanta up online. So it's on YouTube under his Gary Vee, VEE channel. And it's about 12 minutes from when he was with us in Atlanta, talking about this very thing, that it's absolute madness that people aren't doing social media. Do you have to do every social medium and with 35 handles like he does? No. But if you're not using social media and you're about to go buy a billboard, I'd love to have a conversation with you about where you're spending your money. Just a thought. Because I would argue that the individual getting the billboard and the park bench is also doing social media. They're not just doing the others. Because we want to be able to turn analytics into a conversation that we can have with our sellers so they understand eyeballs, click-throughs, time spent on page. So I'm going to take those leads and I'm going to turn those into contacts, right? A lead is when Debbie gives me Kate Grassie's number and says, my friend wants to buy a condo. It turns into a contact when I get the chance to talk to Kate and I get permission to stay in touch with Kate. Now, Kate's either going to go, hey, we're ready to start shopping right now, so I'm going to move forward with her, and that becomes an immediate opportunity, or she's going to go into my smart plan as an eventual nurture. And that nurture could take how long? Who knows? Maybe Kate just bought her house. And Kate, you guys just moved, so you guys are probably not moving for, I'm going to guess, 8, 10, maybe longer. Average American moves every 7 to 10 years.
Never moving. I
You're
still
not-
haven't
you-
forgotten the trauma about moving last time.
Yeah, you guys are done, right? Yeah, you guys are done. Yeah, and you have enough room for all the dogs.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So she's not moving. So there it is. But why would I not? I'm not going to, now that I have that information, would I stop calling Kate Grassy because she's never going to move? No, I want to talk to Kate Grassy because she's somebody that I know and love and trust. And I want to work with people that I know and love and trust. Does Kate know people that I should know that I don't know that I could work with? Yes, right? I need her to introduce me to Erica. I need her to introduce me to Cantwell. I need her to introduce me to Devin Kay. All those people in her life that I haven't met yet, who are also going to have real estate needs eventually. Then through the nurtures, it finally gets to the point where they say, you know what, we're ready to go now. That turns into appointments. And then I'm sitting with them as a buyer, seller, or investor and getting them signed. And then that last little red arrow is all the bullshit we go through to get them to find something and sign and go through inspections. It should be a bigger, longer arrow before closing. But between the agreements and the closings, and then you finally get paid. And you get paid when you go into opportunities in command and fill out all the information correctly. And when you get emails from Colin or anybody in the compliance department, they ask you to do something. When should you do it? Immediately. Just a friendly reminder, immediately. Colin is your friend. Even though he's always dressed in black and he looks like the Grim Reaper, he is your friend. Colin is our friend. Here's some horrifying data. 87% of sellers said they would use their agent again and refer them to others, but only 29% of sellers used an agent they had used previously. Is that the consumer's fault or the agent's fault?
It is the agent.
Yes. Yes, because we've decided, and this, I hear this all the time, and it makes me want to heat up a bag of nickels and hit myself in the face. We've decided that once I work with somebody, they're a client for life. They are not. Like emotionally, I understand the phrase client for life. As soon as the ink is dry, as soon as the paperwork gets filed, they are a free agent again. And how many people online, I know Debbie just landed, how many people online have helped a buyer buy a house, and then 7 years later, they drove past that house and somebody else's sign is in the front yard? Anybody?
A bummer.
Anybody. If it hasn't happened to you, it might happen to you. I'm not wishing it on you. It happens to people all the time because we're like, okay, well, good, they're done. And it's not that we don't want to stay in touch with them. We might have even talked to them 2 years ago or even 2 months ago. Did we ask the right questions? Because if we're not getting into conversation with the people that we worked with, and we talk about this all the time, right? I feel like everybody's grandmother used to have a 3-tine fork, right? Didn't the old forks have like 3 tines? And then we're like, no, we want more food. We're fat, we're Americans, we're going to get a 4-tine fork. But I remember being in Nana's house, there was a 3-tine fork. It's the people that we know and love and trust. So I'm begging you to add a 4th tine to that fork. Know, love, trust, and transacted with. If you are deep into your career, I'm staring at Kellerman, and you haven't gone through and called everybody that you ever worked with, right? And I call this the Patient Zero Project. This is such an easy follow-up for anybody that's been in business for quite some time. Oh, we get chat. Somebody just threw something in the chat. I'm getting sweared at by somebody. I love this. Hang on. Oh. No, that's not new. Am I going the wrong way? Oh, there we go. Patrick McCann, vice versa. How many houses have you listed you did not open by? There's that as well. Let's remember, if you've got a pile of people you've worked with, and I think there's absolutely gold in these hills, like you should go back and have these conversations, I would invite you to go through the microfiche of your career, go all the way back to the first person that you sold the house to. Easy for me to remember. It was one of my friends. It was down in Massachusetts. It was in Westboro. This is going to sound like a tiny number, but at the time in 2010, it was a big number. It was $589,000 for a little cape in Westboro. I was super excited. Was I shocked I was working with one of my friends? No, that's what a lot of us will do when we get started. And if I went back to Isaiah and the house he bought and then talked to everybody that I worked with while I was selling, and I called all those people one by one, and I had the conversation, and maybe I worked with the Bulls. So I called Debbie. Hey, Debbie, it's Timmy. I know we haven't spoken in forever. I just want to let you know I'm going through my paperwork, sort of clearing up the files. Little Barney Miller over here. So I'm getting rid of a lot of my paperwork. And I don't know if you remember when I worked with you to buy that house in, I'm going to make up a town, York. You were my third client ever. And I was still getting going, and I know that you guys knew that I was getting started, and I just want to thank you for being so patient and graceful with me, because the confidence that you gave me when you worked with me allowed me to go on and help, I don't know, whatever your number is, help another 112 families. So on behalf of those families and my family, thank you so much for being patient way back when. How are you? What's going on? What are you doing for the fourth, right? Just roll into it. At that point, you've said the tough part. If you go through the microfiche of everybody you've ever worked with and you don't get one more deal, I would be stunned. And you're going to get your heart broken. They'll be like, oh yeah, we moved 9 more times, but we weren't sure if you were still in real estate. It is not their job to find you. It is not their job to find you. It's our job to stay in their life and keep having conversations. Oh, I'm going to close this out and hang on. Don't mind me. Let me go back here because there was a part. Am I breaking this? There we go. Thank you. We're having trouble with the controls here. Sorry, kids. 91% of buyers said they would use their agent again and refer them to others, but only 15% did. And this is more laughable because this happens all of the time. All of the time. People have their buyer buys their house, you finish your closing. It's probably because most agents, their first transaction is a buyer too. So I would argue this number is so massive because this is predicated on the fact that this is happening with a first-time buyer agent and their first buyer. And you get that Jenny Kopp slides that check across the table, right? And it's already got your name on it, right? Because you did close it, that you did close at the table. It's already got my name on it. And there's 2 numbers in front of the comma. And you're like, I'm going to Hampton Beach. I'm going to get drunk. I'm going to get some fried dough. I'm going to get a tattoo. I'm going to get pregnant. Like you're out the door. You're out the door. It's like that little cloud of dust behind the Roadrunner, right? You're gone. And they're still sitting there like, where did he go? You're gone. And then you're mad in 7 years when I drive past Debbie's house and it's got somebody else's sign in the front yard because you ran away to Bernie's Beach Bar and some poor decisions over the weekend because you celebrated your first closing. Congratulations. But that's why that number is so big. So this is important with follow-up and what we're talking about, making sure that you do have a plan to stay in touch with the people that you've worked with because they are not clients for life. They are free agents, but you can treat them like clients for life. Legally, they are not, but we can still treat them as such insofar as we're staying in touch with them, right? This is a very scientific chart that Jason Abrams made years ago. And I've always equated this because most of us probably ski or snowboard or toboggan at some point. The red dot at the bottom of the second, in between the first and second hill. That is the Waffle Shack and the line at Bretton Woods on Martin Luther King Day. If you've ever been up to Bretton Woods on Martin Luther King Day, the line to get on the lift, to go to the top of the hill, to go sledding is long. Are you willing? This is the question. We would all love to just run into our client as they're about to get off the lift and they're about to ski down the hill. We want to be there for the fun part. Are you willing to wait in line? Are you willing to buy them and their family waffles at the Waffle Shack? Are you willing to listen to their conversation all the way through the line, get on the lift? The lift stops a couple times because it's windy. This is a 7 to 10 year process. Are you staying in touch for that climb up that hill? Or you think automatically you're going to call them after 6 years, 364 days, and they'll be like, oh, Debbie, thank God. We're packing right now. Just finished breakfast. We'd love to move. And we were hoping you would call. Like, that's not how this is going to happen. So what are we doing to make sure that we're staying in touch? How do we remain human in the gap? And that gap is that climb between when they transacted back to when they're about to move again. And if we don't get good at that, right? Cody Gibson said this, and I think Kellerman was in the room for this. We will win in this industry during this age of AI and tech when we are more human with more humans more often. Like, when's the last time you talked to them? Great book by Susan Scott. It is called Fierce Conversations. The conversation is the relationship. When's the last time you talked to them? If they're your client for life and their dog died a year ago and you don't know it, they're not your client for life. the life of a lead. You're going to generate that lead, and then there it is. There's all the stuff happening. There's a stork there in the middle, which is sort of impressive, right? You've got birthdays, you've got vacations, all the things that are going to happen in that window before they get back to transaction. How are you setting yourself up? And this is about that contact card. No matter what you're using, Follow Up Boss, Brivity, Command, are you going in? Do you have more than just Timothy C. Lindsay and 603-834-2856 and tim@leavemealone.com and my physical address and my P.O. box? Do you have my birthday? Do you have our home anniversary? Do you have the date? Of course you do, because it's in there somewhere. But do you have my Investiversary, when I bought my first investment property? Have you started to gather Aiden and Aiden's birthday, Cameron and Cameron's birthday, Janina, my wife, and her birthday? All those kind of things are super important, because those are all touches you can make that aren't transactional, they're emotional. I know I've talked about this so many times. My dad had his life insurance through some guy, can't remember his name, so that's not good, but that's on me, not him. Some guy with Plymouth Rock is what my dad's life insurance was with. And we would get a birthday card from him every year until he passed, which was ages ago. And I want to say Len was his name, but I can tell you right now, I'm 54 and I remember getting a birthday card from my dad's life insurance agent from Plymouth Rock. So like that's the kind of impact you want to have. Are you being impactful and significant, or are you just, is it based on success and income, right? Because I guarantee that act for him with all of his clients sending birthday cards to their kids was going to keep him in a relationship, because it's scattered throughout the year and it's not about business. And if we're being honest, what's one of the most boring things you can do is sell life insurance, because nobody's excited about it. So you want me to spend money to make sure that when I die, my wife has money for her new boyfriend. Wonderful. Yes, let me fund Ted's life. I'm looking forward to that. Where do I sign? It's not a sexy thing. Nobody wants to talk about it, right? So what can you do to emotionalize that? The beautiful thing is the industry we're in, people want to talk about. Everybody wants to talk about real estate, which is fantastic. Gina Ron, fantastic mega agent. Gene's advice is to keep it simple, have meaningful conversations that come from contribution, and the business comes to you. If we can keep sales out of our mouth, and I talked about this, we just did Thursday afternoon, Thursday morning at 11 o'clock, we did profit share, and Linda McKissick and her husband Jimmy and their son Press McKissick are fantastic with growing their growth trees. And Linda says she has her best conversations when she doesn't mention KW while she's having attraction conversations. And I would say the same thing, like Gene's going to be successful, we're going to be successful when we just talk about them and their life. Like the business is going to come up. If you're connected to them and you have enough conversations, they know you're in real estate. Do they need to talk to you about real estate all the time? No, they might ask you how things are going. But again, based on the conversation I just had with Kate, should I assume that she's never going to move? Ish, because something could change. People move because of life events. Something could change that cause her and Jake to move. But in the grand scheme of things, is she moving? No, I don't. That's not the pretense that I'm calling her about. I'm calling her to stay in touch. I'm calling her because we have a friendship first, and above and beyond that, how can I help her business? And does she know anybody that I can help that would increase my business? He was on the MRE podcast. It's interesting to me that they don't have the episode here. They normally do. Gina Ront, also another great story about Gina Ront. This goes way back to when Diana Kokoska was the president of MAPS Coaching. And she's the one that originally wrote the Bold class. She was talking to Gina Ront, and he was talking about how he was a $10 million producer, I think. So he was a mega agent, right? Because mega agent is defined as somebody who's doing 10 million in volume annually, consistently. And she goes, I apologize, Gene, but I think you're a $40 million producer masquerading as a $10 million producer. Wow. And she pulled it out of him and like, yeah, he's been lights out ever since. Not just based on that conversation, but it's a great story. Because I think a lot of people are doing that. They're doing what feels safe. They hit a certain number and like, this is good. I don't need to show off. And it's not about showing off. It's about how much of an impact you can make. So how to stay in touch. Benefits of a CRM, your customer relationship management tool, right? It helps you stay organized. And I know he actually wandered through almost like it was set up last week, but I told everybody in last week's class, anytime I get a chance to ask Nathan when he walks through the room, what would he do differently if he could do it all over again? It's his database. His database was a hot mess. When you hear me joking about 3M notes and cocktail napkins flying around an F-150, I'm making fun of him. Obviously, he did okay. We're all here, right? He built a pretty good business. The challenge is, could he have helped more people when he was an agent? And the answer is yes, because it was very haphazard. And Nate's high D. Nate, the van pulls in, the door swings open, and he says, "Get in." Like he's not anything, but he's very high D. So having an organized business wasn't really something that made sense to him. What he did worked, and could he have been more systematic? Sure. Following up becomes systematic because you have it baked in. You're putting notes into your CRM. You're putting a cadence of conversation in there. You could be using the 36 Connect, which is pretty effortless as long as you do the things it tells you to do. And then you're nurturing relationships long-term, and it's going to increase referrals too. Going back to follow-up, I know I talked about this earlier. I know we're doing follow-up. I know we're checking in. I want people to never say those words. I think if you get on the phone and I say, "Hey, Debbie, Tim Lindsay, just following up," like immediately. And certainly I think civilians hear it for sure. I think if you heard it from just, let's say my life insurance guy calls me from Edward Jones and he's like, "Hey, just checking in," like immediately I'm like, "Oh, I'm on his list."
Right.
Like his team gave him a list of names he needed to call to make sure we were still alive, and he's going through that list. Like when you're calling somebody for a follow-up or to check in, we should have a storyboard in our head. Like, I know that Tim Lindsay wants to do X, Y, and Z because he told me that he and Janina want to do X, Y, and Z. So it would make sense that their next steps would be to A, B, and C. So I'm going to call and just say, "Hey, Tim, trust you had a great weekend. Hope you had a good Father's Day. The reason I'm calling, the last time we spoke, you and Janina had mentioned blah, blah, blah." And to do that, I think our next steps would be boom, boom, boom. So first and foremost, it's get on that phone and you're calling 603-396-3198. Let's get that conversation going with Brad so we can see where we're moving insofar as a financial product to go shopping. Like, tell them what they need to do. They're looking at you to be the guide in the wilderness. And I don't care how many times, and veteran agents on this call know it to be true. I don't care how many times your client has bought, sold, or invested. They're like, "I know what I'm doing." No, they don't. They know what they're doing because they've had somebody like you, yourself or another good agent, guide them. Like I could 4,000% give you most of the ingredients in my grandmother's fudge. And I could say, "Oh, I know what I'm doing." Guarantee if I started whipping that up, and it would still be fantastic because it's fudge. Even if it's screwed up, it's still fudge. Fat kid speaking, right? But I would jam it up. You give me the ingredients, like, "Oh, here's my punch list," right? You still have to navigate it with them. And they're going to have trepidation. They're going to stop. Like my friend that stopped in the driveway. They didn't want to go in the building. There's going to be moments they're going to get cold feet, or they're going to need more explanation. And more explanation means more information. Because we've all heard this. "Oh, we need a little more time, Tim." And I'm of the mindset that our clients, our consumers, they don't ever need more time. Unless they're overcoming a financial challenge that truly needs chronological help to like bear out because they've got to pay stuff down or whatever. I think when people say they need more time, they really mean they need more information. And when people tell me they need more time, I'm just like, "Hey, I completely understand. And I do feel felt found. Understand how you feel." We've had a lot of clients that have felt the same way. And what we found is historically, it's not a lack of time that we're up against, it's a lack of information. So I apologize if my team hasn't asked the right questions or given the right information, or maybe there's something that's on you. And I would say this on purpose. I wouldn't say mind. I would say maybe there's something on your heart that you haven't asked me yet. So what are those questions? How can I help? And then I would do what I never do, and I would go quiet.
Let them talk.
Yep. And then they're like, "Well, you know what?" And invariably there's a question. It's never more time. Unless, again, they're up against it with credit, or they need a few things, or there's a financial gift coming in from an uncle and the paperwork has to get straightened out with Brad and all that kind of stuff. It's always, when they say they need more time, they need more information. And we have failed by not asking enough questions historically Because sometimes I got a question from a client and it's like, oh, I would have known that information and given that information if I had asked for it. Right? So it's usually a failure on our part. And falling on the Nerf sword and saying, hey, it's usually due to a lack of information. So I apologize. What questions did my team and myself not ask? They're never going to be mad that you fell on the sword. I know I've said this a million times. I could be in the middle of a deal with Carrie Kellerman, and this would never happen, but I'm just going to make it ridiculous. I could be in the middle of a deal with Carrie Kellerman. We're at the house. Carrie Kellerman is there with the seller. I'm there with my buyer, Nathan W. Dickey. Wonderful gentleman, right? And then for no reason, we finish sort of talking. We're all standing in the front yard, and Carrie Kellerman's homeowner, the seller, grabs a bottle of vodka and a gym sock and Molotov cocktails his own property. Do you know what you need to do as the buyer's agent at that point? I need to turn to Nate Dickey and say, I'm so sorry. Our clients want us to apologize. Our clients want us to take the bullet. I'm not at that point going to point to Carrie Kellerman and be like, I don't know, her seller's crazy, right? So we always have to take the fall. They will appreciate that. They're expecting us to be a leader and be vulnerable and be honest. You ask people what they're looking for in their next agent, they're going to ask for like punctuality, they're going to ask for great negotiating skills, and they're going to ask for honesty, which sounds, I know it sounds saccharine at best, but that's what people are looking for. Richard Schulman, having a daily list of who to call. Wow, did I just say this? Storyboarding, right? Having a daily list of who to call, email, and text Keith Richards' $116 million business running and growing. Subscribe to the MRA podcast for this story and a one-pager. These come out every Monday. I don't know who Jason interviewed or what episode dropped today, but every Monday, and you'll see that Kirsten will usually pop it on the Facebook page. So if you have not spent any time listening to the MREA podcast, I would encourage you to. Jason's really good at asking questions, and the stories are all fantastic. And you'll hear stuff and you'll be like, oh, Richard Schulman, I'm making up states. He's in Arizona. That would never work here in New England. With that attitude, it definitely won't work in New England. But what people are normally doing are best practices that they've made exclusive to them. So then they become, their best practice. Adding contacts in command. Enter 5 new contacts. Oh, here comes the homework. Here comes the homework. Look out. Open your command. And if you've never opened your command, I'm going to say a little prayer for you in your future. So we're going to go to agent.kw.com, or you're opening Brivity, or you're opening Follow Up Boss, and enter 5 new contacts with the information that you have. Now, here's the challenge. People are like, well, I've got Tim's name. I've got Timothy Lindsay with an E, by the way. And I've got his cell phone and his email. Don't have his mailing address. I don't have his physical address. How will I get that? I would argue that you call me. And this is what I would do. I would call and just say, hey, I'm working on my database. I'm trying to clean some stuff up. I don't have your mailing address, and I don't know if it's different from your physical address. I know you guys are in Stratford, right? I'm throwing pasta at the cabinets at this point because I don't know if they're in Stratford or not. They'll give it to you. And if they're a little cagey about it, this is what I would always say. Hey, Kate, I just got a new tool that I'm working with my team. We're refreshing our database. I just want to make sure that I have everything for you. So I'm just making sure that everybody that I have in my database, I have legal name, physical address, mailing address, best phone, and of course, an email address. And I'm taking all this. I'm not taking this to start to pummel you with anything that you don't want. I'm taking this so I have it for the future if I should happen to have the chance to serve you. And I would probably say it less clunky than that, but I would say it just like that. Because at this point, I want to get the information, and then I get what I get from her. And then if I want to start to share, because I do want permission to stay in touch with her in a business sense, and I know that she's not moving because she just said she's not because they have the yard for the dogs. My question would be, hey, you're really great with your business and what you do for marketing. If I'm putting some marketing together, would you be able to look at it for me? I'd love your 4 cents because I think you have a great eye for X, Y, and Z. After I compliment somebody and then ask them for their help, are they going to say no? No. So now I'm just going to put it on my 36 Connect. So awesome. I appreciate that, Kate. When I start my next marketing campaign, I'll make sure that you get the pieces because I'd love to hear your thoughts. She'll be fine with it. Because she's already getting Bed Bath & Beyond and all the other stuff. Like, I'm always amazed at people. They're just like, if I get one more email, I'm like, you're jammed up about my email. But you've got, like, I guarantee they get Dick's Sporting Goods in there 3 times, Bed Bath & Beyond 4 times because it's summertime now and you need new sheets and a new quilt for the bed. Like, all these other emails that just cloud their space. But the one that's really of value, that's talking to them, it's fascinating. How many people do people have in their database? I'm going to ask. I would love for people to unmute and tell. What do we have for numbers in our database? While you're adding your 5 new contacts. Where's my Zoom? Is anybody unmuting to talk about their database? Can anybody hear me at home? Go ahead, Debbie.
I have 622.
I love that.
My Apple phone.
It's
I
my
have
Apple phone. Said no
my-
one ever. It's called an iPhone. Welcome to the
Yeah,
show.
thank you.
My Apple phone.
Yes. And but I only have 12 in command. So here's the problem, and
No, we have 610 to move, which is exciting. It's exciting.
Right.
Go ahead.
So somebody very early on said, "Oh, Deb, there's a real easy way for you to just do an IT dump of all of that." So I went and did the IT dump, had a follow-up training with KT.
Wonderful.
KT said, "I don't like when people do that. I like when people are deliberate. So I'm going to undo your data dump. And what I want you to do is I want you to start going through and having conversations with these people and then put them in one at a time. Now you know everybody in command, you've started a conversation. They know you're a real estate
Yes.
agent, and those are real leads that you're going to keep up with. So that's why there's only 12. Now, I really do have more
So
than
since
12.
you got here, you've only had 12 conversations?
No, that's my problem.
You're
I've
making
had
my
more, but
point.
I just haven't.
You're also making his point, because if we go back to the rule of this class, 10 conversations a day, that would be 50 a week. How quickly could you get your 610 remaining people into the database?
Easy.
Yes, okay. I completely, now there's 2 trains of thought here. I'm not against you guys moving everybody. But what I'll always say is if you move everybody from your Apple phone, which I love, if you move everybody from your Apple phone to your Apple Book, now they're just sort of sound asleep in 2 places. That's my biggest concern. Or people move all their people and then you just start a 36 Connect.
Right.
And you just start spamming them, right? So I do love what he said, and I think it's a great idea. Like, I'm going to call, have the conversation, permission-based, and then move them one at a time. Does that seem really piecemeal? Sure. Then you can move everybody all at once. But what you need to do is then start to tag them with put tags on everybody that says, no permission. And you have to go through it one at a time and take that tag off, right? And have that conversation with each and every one.
So my challenge is I come from a generation of paper and I'm trying to go paperless. So I have a thick notebook of all of the conversations
I love
that
it.
I did not document
Yes.
in command.
Well-
So that's what I have to get better at, is maybe either skipping the paper and just going right and typing as soon as my conversation's over, as opposed to writing it down and then saying, oh, I'll get to it later.
Because when is later?
Well, right now it's never, right?
Yeah, well, so yes. So two trains of thought on this. And anybody that knows Darlene Caldwell, she finally is using her Google calendar. And she also carries a massive leather-bound date book. And she's always going to do both. Sue Doyle, who I believe is in class right now, loves paper. Nola Katie over in our York office loves, her and Doyle are fighting for the original Barney Miller. There's a lot of paper between the two. Yeah. Yeah. So they could never say you're killing too many trees, because Sue Doyle's killing all the trees. But so I don't have an issue if you want to take the notes and then transcribe them later.
Yeah.
I think you're going to build the fast twitch muscle if you just keep command open.
Yeah,
And I also appreciate, because I don't do it in real time. When I'm meeting with you guys, you'll see me taking notes. You've heard my quote.
Yeah.
Is always ask great questions, take great notes, have honest conversations. But then I have to go into command when we get, like this afternoon, the last part of my day is me going into command and writing down
Right.
snippets from my conversations with agents that I had in one-on-ones. So, because I want to make sure,
I have to create this habit. I have to create a daily habit, and I
Yes.
just haven't done it yet.
yes. So even if you set aside time,
Yes.
like that could be after your calls,
Yeah.
and you just put the notes, and you don't have to go in and like write Tolstoy. Like
Yeah,
you just have to have some bullet points.
Right.
Like talk to Tim Lindsay. Boom, boom, boom. Now you know, like, oh, next to my column, that's where we left off.
Right,
You
right.
sound like a genius because it's a month later. Hey, Timmy, last time we spoke, you mentioned that you and Janina were blah, 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 because you wrote it down, right? Same as taking notes. If you start to door knock a neighborhood that you're getting listings in for open houses, and you answer, like I answer the door, and you're like, hey, Mr. Lindsay, Debbie Bowles with Keller Williams. I've got 123 Main Street. We're going to hold it open on Saturday. And I know you know the Lindsays. We'd love to have you come by the property. We're doing something for the neighborhood before the public open house. A couple of questions for you. Hey, why did you move here and why have you stayed? And you simply write that down. So the next time you knock on my door, hey, Mr. Lindsay, it's Debbie again. Last time we spoke, you said you moved for the school system and you stayed for the association. Has anything changed? Because now I'm sitting there as a consumer, like, how did she remember that?
Yeah,
Because you remembered it. You could jump back in your car, you opened up a contact card, right?
right.
And you put some notes in. And it just makes it easier for you to show up and be like, wow, she remembers everything. No, she writes down everything.
Mhm.
She tracks everything. The big difference, right? Tags allow you to easily search your database to pull up specific segments. And people can get, I've heard people say that you can have too many tags. I guess I won't disagree with that, but people are multifaceted. I could have a friend, or I could have a friend who has a golden retriever, loves golf, loves cars, like all these different things. So if I'm having an event, or I have a chance to have an event, or I somehow get my hands on a 20-person suite at the Speedway, I'm going to click cars. And everybody in my life that cares about cars, I'm then going to go through that and be like, okay, well, like, Nate Dickey, NASCAR? No, Nate Dickey's more of a steam car guy, right? But then my friend Steve, NASCAR. Yes, I'll invite him, or whatever. I don't, people say you can have too many tags, and I think the people that say you can have too many tags probably don't have enough tags. I think tags make life easier. I think you go through and do the DTD2 tags for sure. You can go through and just click, and now I know, because this week we're calling our I's and Q's to be able to click I, and just go through. Well, they're already in alphabetical order. Okay. Maybe they are, right? But like, just to be able to go through and be like, these are the people I'm calling this week. And I have X amount of people in my eyes, and I need to get through all of them in 5 days. So how many calls do I have, right? Just makes sense. Touches are an interaction or communication a real estate agent has with a potential existing client. Tasks are specific actual items that need to be completed in the real estate process. And then smart plans are a coordinated series of marketing and communication designed to achieve a specific goal. We talk about the two different things. There's smart plans and there's campaigns. Campaigns that you probably, you hear us talk about smart plans the most. Smart plans are long-term. Smart plans are the nurture. A campaign is going to be usually date or event driven. You're going to run a campaign on the way up to an open house, where a smart plan is, how do I stay in touch in the background throughout the entirety of the year? Does anybody on the call have any tags in their database that they think are unusual, or they're glad they did it? Anybody?
I've not used that feature yet.
To start
tell you the
tagging? Okay. Just figure one. Just figure one, like, you've got a commonality with a bunch of your people, right?
Yeah.
And just, I would start with that,
truth. Okay.
right? So for me, super simple would just be golf. Who are all my golf people, right?
Okay.
Because you think, and this is, and especially as that group grows, this is always the challenge with, when we say, who do you know that I should know?
Yeah.
And people just like immediately think of Planet America, and they're like, that's a lot of people. And the abundance of that question causes them to just sort of black out.
Yeah.
That's why it was very popular, but we got away from it. And I think we shouldn't be afraid to say it. Is rather than just saying, who do you know that I should know? We were taught way back in the day, and I would like for people to bring it back, is like, who do you know from school or soccer, right? So now I'm having them pare it down to these groups, and they're seeing faces and they're recalling conversations, right? Honestly, I think we dropped it from our lexicon because nobody wanted to say church anymore. I'm not even joking. But that used to be the thing. Like, who do you know for school or church or work?
Yeah.
And now they're like, oh, okay, you know what? From work, from school, from Sunday mass, from Saturday temple, like people just start to like unlock and they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But we're like, who do you know on the entire planet, Debbie, that wants to buy, sell, or invest? Even the guy in the hallway is laughing. Like, like no, nobody. Like everybody's just like, that's a big question. I don't have any answers, and that's not helpful at all. Sorry, Candace, I was not reading. Everybody's here. Dominic said 187. Candace, 323. Excellent.
It's a big dumpster fire of 323 is what it is.
Well, what are you
So-
gonna do? What are we gonna clean up?
Well, I'm hoping that when I get with the lovely Miss Kellerman, that she can help me sort all that out because I definitely need some help.
Okay, okay.
It's a mess. I did what Debbie was talking about, and I did like the dump of my contacts. I think I did it in business planning clinic last year.
Okay.
But the problem with my phone is that I've worked in restaurants for the past 25 years and I've met a lot of people. And some of those people have nicknames. And
Yes.
it's not their real name. It's what I've decided to call them.
Yes.
or
Sticky.
what I
Yeah.
put them in there as to remember them because I might have multiple Mikes or Matts or Jens or whatever, you
Yep.
know, when you've
Yep,
got
I
four
got
of the
you.
same girl name in your phone. I have to put,
Yep.
something to differentiate them from the other ones with the same names. And it's just, there's very, I don't even think that there maybe a handful of people that have a first and last name in my cell phone. So that dump that's in my command is just that, it's a dump. And I tried to go through and do the tags. And the tag I used the most was Sphere because it's people that I know. But and I've put in a couple of other ones, but like nothing crazy. And I haven't gone through and, during Bold, I reached out to a lot of these people and, some of them were happy to hear from me. Some of them I didn't get through. And,
Yeah.
I just feel like I was beating the horse at this point. Cause like all I've done for the last year, is put myself out there and to everybody. And like the main connection I still have with these people that I worked with at Olive Garden 20 years ago is Facebook. We're not talking a lot anymore. We talk on Facebook. When I see their life events, I comment and I have connections with these people still, but
Yep.
it's not, it's like beating a dead horse at this point. They've all seen, I think more people showed up and came out and commented when I posted a year ago and put up my nice headshot, that I picked out of my 80 million headshots that I had, picked the perfect one to make that announcement page you guys gave me. Candace Sullivan, welcome to KW. I got more hits on that post and everybody knew. Everybody congratulated me. Everybody said yay and everybody said hey. And now it's like I feel like they're just sick of me posting market data and talking about real estate. And I feel like I'm beating a dead horse with a lot of those people. And I don't know. I haven't I don't know. Database is a mess. I don't know. I don't use it. I don't have smart plans. I don't have anything. I I couldn't even get into it because my laptop died and I had to get a whole new computer. So there was a 3-week period where I had no computer at all. because my desktop died and I bought a laptop 2 years ago when I started real estate school, and that laptop shit the bed and I almost lost everything. So I had to go back in and I couldn't even get in because it was a new computer and everything. And I realized, man, I
Yep.
haven't been in here in a long time.
I would,
So
I would encourage you to, I would encourage you to figure out, I just go and start the 36 Connect. Now, again, you're gonna do it with permission. And like
I
it
don't even know
says
what
here,
that is. What is that?
so you go into smart plans. When you're in command, go into smart plans. And in smart plans, there's one called 36 Connect. And 36 Connect, we'll talk about this on Thursday in Business Planning Clinic. It's going to give you 9 touches that you're going to do every quarter. And some of those touches are phone calls. Here's the good news. There's only 4 phone calls. You only have to talk to your people once every quarter. That's why the DTD2 asks you to talk to them once every quarter. Isn't that crazy how those 2 things work together? So I would start something like that. And then honestly, going back for content for you, and I'm not saying don't do the market data, Candy, but for you, with everything you know about restaurants, I would have you start to talk more about like the restaurant lifestyle in the Portsmouth area, Portsmouth, Dover, wherever you want to. Like people know you for that, and start talking about the lifestyle of that in the towns in which you want to be selling real estate. Like I know, like, okay, people, or your perception is they're tired of the data. I don't think they're tired of the data. Let the data be a thing that you do every week, but start to go back into your comfort zone and the commonality in which people know you. People know you from the restaurant industry. So start to celebrate that as the thing that you're talking about in the area in which you want to serve, right? And you do one video a week and just talk about a different restaurant. Hit the library, hit this, hit that. Now, I mean, everybody knows, obviously, the people that you work with, know that you're at Tuscan, but I'm sure they won't be upset. Like other restaurants exist. They're not going to have a problem with you talking about other restaurants.
Oh yeah,
And,
for sure.
and it's, I think you go back into that space that you're wildly comfortable, talk about that commonality. Everybody eats and everybody wants a place to sleep. And you start to tie those 2 conversations together. It puts you into a comfort zone, and you can go talk about things that you're passionate about, you've worked in, and you know all these people. Start to do these little mini interviews and make that part of your content, because we do want it to be market based, but we really want for people to be attracted to, we want it to be, the content should be lifestyle. And Gary talked about this. And if people jumped into class late, Gary Vee, when he was with us in Atlanta, obviously was on the main stage on Sunday, and he just shared about 12 minutes of that presentation on his YouTube channel last night. But Gary talked about the fact that Gary's been doing content for years. And at the same time, it's not about your content getting to the people that are on your channel. It's about the content you're creating getting to the people who have those same commonalities. His point was, you could say, well, I'm not going to have a whole bunch of people see this video. But if you go on, and this is a shameless plug for a restaurant that I have no financial interest in, but I love her to death. Julie Cutting on Penn Hollow, or I guess she's on the corner of Penn Hollow and State. She's got that restaurant Cure, and she's now about to open a new restaurant, a steakhouse called Char. And there's going to be a lot of buzz around that. Like if Debbie or you or anybody made a video about Char, it would get eyes. Gary's whole point was, I'm not going to get more eyes because I have more people following me. You're going to get the eyes of the people that are interested in what you, and everybody talks about this, like you and your partner, you and your spouse, you and your friend are talking about something, and all of a sudden it starts to populate on your phone, or the direction of that, those videos start to pop up on your YouTube. Like that's going to happen. So I think for you to go back into a space in which you're comfortable and start having those conversations, that might be content that you're happy to make and people are excited to see. Not that the marketing stuff's not important, but let's go back to lifestyle and the driver that's going to get people to come and live in these places that we sell, right? Make sense?
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. I'm already doing all of that. I already went back to what I know, what my roots are, and I was trying to, get away from it and distance myself from it, and push myself forward as being real estate only. But I can't proceed like that because it's not how my brain is wired. And I have
Yeah.
to, like you said, stick to what I know. So I've I don't know what I what we even called it, but I have this great thing going with my chat where we it's called Candy Style Mixologist Market Stats. So the last one that I posted, um, I talk about work, I talk about the restaurants, but I talk about my market data, but I've switched it over to like a bartending version of it. So the first one, it starts Kittery Market Cocktail of the Week, strong pour, cellar side finish. And then it goes into, it talks about the market, but it talks about bartending. It's definitely me. It's the most me way I could possibly put out market data.
Good.
And I've had good luck with that. I think it's
Good.
less boring for people than just here's what's going on in Kittery.
Yeah.
You know, it
Yes.
talks about drinks, you know, it talks
Yep.
about the market, but like bar wise, you know, and it's
Yep.
really cool. So
I
I
like
already
that.
have that. I'm just, you know,
Good.
I'm just here.
Are you doing it consistently?
I've been really busy at work. I haven't been as consistent as I'd like to be, but
Okay.
I posted, you know, I posted about the market data. I did that one day and that got, let me see, it got 296 views. And then the next day I posted about, you know, the weekend working at, I tagged Tuscan Sea Girl. I put a picture of the dining room on the water. And, you know,
Yep.
I said I was going to be working all weekend talking about Maine real estate. That post got double the views. It got 575 views. And it was a
Mm,
picture of my restaurant as opposed to a picture of like a cocktail by the water, which I use for the market data.
yep.
So I'm getting, you
Very
know,
good.
people are more interested in I don't know. I don't know. I don't I'm trying a little mix of everything. But consistency has definitely been slacking. I was posting a lot more consistently when I had more time, but I have just shaved down my schedule again because for the last since it got nice basically in April, I was just trying to get back on my feet from the winter because I had a especially rough winter this year and trying to get back on that. So I've gotten back up on my feet from that, so I'm able to cut down and I just changed my schedule. So I'm only doing 3 nights, opening up the week so I can get with Miss Kellerman. Can I ask you a
Good.
quick question that's not related to what we're talking about right now, super quickly?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to get the documents for my mentorship agreement with her into DocuSign and I don't know how to do it. Can I just bring them to the office today, like signed
You,
and bring them like in
you,
person
you can do that.
as a
Yes.
person?
Yes. As a person. Yes, you can do that.
Okay, cool. Thank
All
you.
right, kiddo. Common database tags. So obviously sphere of influence, which I think, I don't know if I would necessarily put sphere of influence because I think anybody that's in my database is, I suppose you could, because I'm of the mindset that people that you know are in your sphere and then people that are influential are in your sphere of influence. So I suppose you could do that. VIPs, those are people that, this is somebody who's, they're sending you multiple clients. These people are repeat offenders. You get to the end of the calendar year, they've sent you 3 deals and they do it consistently. Past clients, obviously, referrals, yes. Leads, I don't know if I'd put leads. I don't know if I would use leads, but these are common database tags, not Tim's database tags. Agent, I think this is important. Every time I talk about how many people do you have in your phone or your database, they're like, well, 17 million, but half of them are agents. Cool. They need to be spoken with as well. Because agent to agent referrals are a huge and will be a huge piece of your business moving forward. Talk to any veteran agent. They're doing agent to agent referrals consistently because other agents trust them, right? Vendors, sure, do not call. Yes, people would argue, well, it's their do not call. I'm going to take them out of my database. If you can still send them mailers, you're going to get a do not mail. I'm sure is coming. We're a very litigious country. I'm sure do not mail is on the way, but I would not necessarily get rid of them because they said do not call. If you can still email them and door knock them and all that stuff. I'm not one that some people are just like, they go through their database and they're like, I never talked to this person. I don't like this person. I'm never going to call them. I think it's worth one more phone call. I think we eject people sometimes from our database quicker than we should. And then missing information. And maybe there's an MIA tag. I think that's a great tag to have because that'll be a big one. You'll have probably the most people will be tagged with that because you see the health score in your database. If you're in Command, other CRMs have health scores too, and your health score can suffer dramatically if all you've got is Tim and a phone number. To Candace's earlier point, and a lot of people are guilty of this. I remember seeing Nate's cell phone very early on when I got here, and it just, and I'm a spaz, don't get me wrong. I'm not your high C, but when I put people in my phone, and I did this for my own mental health, as soon as I got started, like I'm day 3 of freshman year, I've got my first showing, and I get a conversation going with, let's just make up a name and say Sue Doyle. I got a showing with Sue Doyle. I'm putting Sue Doyle in. I'm not putting Sue. I'm not putting Doyle. And if you know me and you know her, we call each other Doyle and Lindsay. I'm putting Sue Doyle. I'm putting Carrie Kellerman. I have Nate in my phone as Nathan Dickey. Like I do not like and I know right now because he's Nate and I love him. He's probably got me in there 9 times. He's probably got Timothy C. Lindsay, Tim Lindsay, T. Lindsay, Tim, Timmy, like, and that makes my brain rot. I don't know how people exist with phones like that. This is you. I'm not trying to pick a fight. I'm just saying it'll make your life easier. As soon as I called another agent in this industry, I put their full legal name in as I knew it. So when they called me back, I wasn't like, hello. I'm like, hey, Debbie, how are you? And I think that probably ingratiated me with them. Because what do veteran agents think of new agents? They think we're all jackasses. And I, ladies and gentlemen, was a jackass, I promise you. But I got your name right when you called. I wasn't sort of like, who dis, new phone, right? Oh, sorry, who dis, Apple phone. Yeah, I love that you said Apple phone. I'm gonna drag that through the rest of my day. So in love with Apple phone. Other tags are more specific to you, your history, your business. Yeah, people you formerly worked with, like going in and just writing other businesses that you were in before real estate. So when you're calling somebody, yep, she was from IBM, she was from Liberty Mutual, mountain bike, golf, hike, right? All the categories. So when you're having events or you're going to just run through, because that could be that's a legitimate conversation to have. If you're going through your July calls, if you're making calls in the last week of June, next week-ish, and you're going into that 4th of July weekend, if you're a cyclist, they're going to be locked and loaded. They will be on Peacock and NBC watching without fail. They'll be watching the Tour de France. And if they're tennis, Wimbledon qualifiers started this morning, right? So do they play tennis? All these things matter. And you're like, I don't know, I'm gonna call it, like Wimbledon starts, boom. I'm not calling Debbie and saying, hey, what's up, kid? Wimbledon starts soon. Like, no, I'm gonna just start talking to her. Like, hey, you see the Wimbledon qualifier started? Like, I bring that in a couple of minutes. And she's like, oh my God, he remembers I love tennis. Yes. Did I remember that she loves tennis? Yes, in a fleeting moment I did. And how did I remind myself? With a friggin' tag in my command, right? So Debbie might have golden retriever, golf, tennis, cycling, like she's super active. I'm going to put all those things there. It's going to be an easy conversation for me to have, right? And if you come from a cycling community, maybe, just a thought, maybe you go get a room somewhere and you have a Saturday brunch event for all your cycling friends, sponsored by your lender, and you watch the final stage. The final stage of the Tour de France is boring because they already know who the winner is. Everybody's drunk, even the guys on the bikes, which is amazing. I don't know. You figure out what date's going to make sense, and you host a Wimbledon party, or these are all things that are not really cost prohibitive. You can get your lender or somebody to get involved. It's eggs and champagne. Don't make them bottomless mimosas. You don't want to go to jail. But there's all these things that we can do simply by tagging our people and realizing we have enough of a crew or a cool enough crew. It doesn't need to be 1,000 people, right? Because what do we know, veteran agents? What do we know? We're sending out 500 invites for our quarterly event. How many people do we want to see? Maybe 100. We never want 500 people to show up. That's a nightmare, and it's expensive. Adding do not call tags in your database. Again, I think that's important. I don't think I would eject somebody because I can't call them anymore. And if they're in your database, here's what I'm going to arm wrestle with this one. If she's in my database and it's my Aunt Julie and she's on the do not call list, she doesn't perceive me as somebody that she feels can't call. If you call your Aunt Julie, your mom's sister, and you're not opening with real estate, you're going to ask her about her dog and her hip, Don't ask about the hip. She'll talk about it for 20 minutes. But you're going to ask her a couple of questions. And then eventually you'll be like, how are you? How's Janina? How are the boys? What's going on with real estate? Like at that point, like she doesn't see me, she sees me as her nephew, not a real estate agent. So I think people that are in your database that you have permission to have conversations with, they might get to a do not call because you are going to have aggregators pushing people into your database. Does anybody on the call have an aggregator that sends people into their database and then it tags that it's coming from whatever the aggregator is? That happens with some of our aggregators, so you might have to do not call those, but it doesn't mean you can't knock and can't mail. So just a thought. Add tags to contacts. Add a sphere tag to the contacts you entered. Has anybody entered any new contacts since we've been talking this morning? I love the honesty. We got a quiet group.
It is very
It's very quiet, but we have people, which I appreciate. Double checking, we have people. So touches are any interaction or communication a real estate agent has with a potential or existing client. Examples of touches are sending emails, making telephone call, TCPA, don't mind me. Why does that look wrong? Telephone Consumer Protection Act. Yes, right? Yes. I don't know why that was looking so weird. Complaint phone calls, sending direct emails, engaging on social media, or meeting in person. The aim of a touch is to build relationships and keep mind share with your database. Touches should be needed and relevant. We're not just doing it. And that's my point of saying, don't just call to say you're checking in. Oh my God, they picked up the phone. I can say that I was checking in. And when they hang up, I can check the box and I can tell myself that I made a touch. That wasn't a touch. That was terrible. Remember Facebook? Remember way back? And Facebook cleaned this up pretty quickly. Remember way back in the day, kids, Facebook had a thing called poking. You could poke somebody. I think they finally had an HR meeting. They're like, I don't think we should use poke anymore. I think poke's not good. Let's not use poke. So you might remember there was a poke button on Facebook, and then Mark Zuckerberg thought about all of his money going away, and he's like, I'm going to pull poke. We're going to take that out. More data points. 80% of sellers contacted only one agent before finding the agent they worked with to sell their home. 74% of buyers contacted only one agent before finding the agent they worked with to find their home. Those are pretty similar numbers. So what does that tell you? Be first. How are you first? Be top of mind. How are you top of mind? Consistency in whatever way you choose, right? 43% of buyers worked with an agent that was referred to them by a friend, neighbor, or relative. And 66% of sellers worked with an agent that was referred to them by a friend, neighbor, or relative. So are we reminding the people that we work with, that we know and love and trust, that we're going to grow our business through them? But more importantly, on the left-hand side, are you top of mind? And again, when you're getting started, we want to be, if somebody said, who's an agent that you know and love and trust, you're going to be fighting your way into this group of maybe 5 or 3. Eventually, you'd want to be the person like, oh, of course, we're going to call Carrie. Of course, we're going to call Kate. Of course, we're going to call Doyle. Right now, you just want to be in the conversation. Because if people are just listing off 3 names and you weren't one of the names, and you're like, hey, well, what about Dominic? I'm like, oh, I didn't know he did real estate. And you're like, but they saw my Facebook post. Yep, they did. They saw your Facebook post. And they're not sure that you're still doing it. Because the Facebook post was way back when, right? That's also a troublesome thing to have happen. And that will happen to you at some point. You're going to go to an event and people are going to see you and be like, oh my God, how's it going? Hey, you still doing real estate? I caught that over the weekend. One of my friends who is a teacher, and he's taught since like school, graduated, been teaching the entire time. And we were at a golf event, and one of the guys, and I'm so hyper aware of it, I saw him and I hadn't seen him in a while. I walked up and was just like, hey, how are you? How's Julianne? His boys were with him. It's like a Father's Day golf event. And I said, I said, how are the students? They keeping you on your toes? And he's like, yeah, like that was me acknowledging that he teaches. And then the next person that walked up, they said, hey, Ryan, are you still teaching? Which I don't care what your industry is. I think that's the most disrespectful question. Are you still teaching? Does that mean, are you wondering if I got fired? Or do you feel it's so boring that I do what I do that I would have quit by now? Like, and I'm hypersensitive to it too. And I know I've told this story a million times. My mom, for a stretch when we were kids, she was a stay-at-home mom for ages, because back in the good old days that happened. And then in 1980, my mom, so I was 9. That hurt to say out loud. So this is like 1980. My mom starts doing Mary Kay Cosmetics. Yes. And we were outside. I know I've told the story so many times, but it's so good. We're outside Purity Supreme in Chelmsford. We're wheeling our cart full of groceries back to the car. My mom is a successful Mary Kay Cosmetics director at this point. And we are about to put our groceries in the trunk of a pink Cadillac. And one of her, this is the only word that's appropriate, one of her jackass friends rolls out of stage left and says, hey, Shirley, are you still doing Mary Kay? I'm 10. Jesus, 9 at this point. I wanted to turn to the car and be like, what do you think?
This is.
Yeah. You know, and I've said this a million times. If you're driving a pink Cadillac, you're either doing Mary Kay or you're a Nicaraguan drug dealer. Like, there's no in between. What does this car say, you know? But I remember being insulted from my mom in the moment. And my mom handled it perfectly because she's Shirley Lindsay, and she's immaculate. My mom was just like, my mom like sort of stepped and like looked over the shoulder of the car, and she's just like, I'm just gonna make up a name here. She's like, yes, Ethel. She goes, I'm quite happy doing it. Like, so just be mindful of that. And you're going to get that through the entirety of your career. Are you still doing real estate? Like it's a plague, right? Because we could turn to them and be like, are you still sitting at the same salary in your crappy cube at the company that you agreed to trade your time and your money for? Like, that's the correlation they don't understand. You guys are very brave to do what you do. We have a chance to figure out what we're worth every time we sit at a kitchen table. And there's no cap on what you could bring into your family for financial opportunity. And your friend Ethel, that's at Biberty Mutual, no offense, Biberty Mutual, she agreed 15 years ago that X amount of dollars was going to be cool for 8:30 to 5:01 Monday through Friday. And during COVID, she didn't get a raise, and she was told she should be happy she still has a job. So you guys are built differently, and you should be proud of that. Valuable touches, build relationships one step at a time. The goal is to build relationships now so that when people need real estate agents in the future, they already know and trust you. And that's what this whole being a human in the gap is. Like, we're just going to keep building that bridge between where we are and where they are, and making sure that they understand that we have value. And every time they talk to us, it's a conversation about them, not about the business, not about our financial goals. Hey, buddy, how are you, sir?
Good. Sorry to bother you.
You're fine. Eric Levi Levin, everybody. You're fine. It's okay. So the staircase of perceived value: trusted advisor, helpful person, knowledgeable person, nice person, salesperson. So first and foremost, we're going to be a salesperson. That is transactional, functionary, self-interested. Nice person: rapport, likability, friendly. Knowledgeable person: expert and resourceful. A helpful person: we want to be a consultant and an advisor. And then ultimately, that trusted advisor, the person getting invited to the home warming party, is a fiduciary, and we are ethical as well, right? And they talk about that they want us to be honest and ethical and punctual and great negotiators. When it gets to the way we're communicating and connection and trust, we're going to start with emails, right? And this is just not the order necessarily that we should do things, but these are the weight of these are different, right? Starting with an email. An email is an email. It's just like sending a text at this point. Emails can get sent out. People can get them. They read them. Maybe they don't. They open it. Maybe they don't. They delete it right away. After the email, you go to snail mail.
After snail mail, which is your physical mail, you're going to go to social media. And that social media is to everybody, right? So it doesn't feel personalized. Text message would be personalized. And then from text message, you'd go to voice. That's a phone call or a conversation. And then after that, this is the most important one. This is the one that we talk about. If you've read the book, 7 Levels of Communication with Michael Mayer, he talks about the highest level of communication is a personal invite. So again, email, simple, it's personal because you're sending it to, well, it can be. It can also be written poorly and feel like a mass mailer. Sometimes people send out emails and it's supposed to say, hey, Timothy, and it says, hey, and then it says, receiver in brackets. Snail mail, you can go both ways on this. Like you can send snail mail, and if you're doing every door direct mail, it's probably going to say current resident on it. That doesn't feel personal. But if I get mail that you signed the envelope on the outside, like when my wife and I do holiday cards, Janina hand writes all the envelopes because she's a maniac. The inside is all pre-built pictures and from Timothy, Janina, Aiden, and Cameron. But the outside she hand writes because we want that to feel like we actually tried, or she did, of course. I get the stamps. That's my part and all that. The most exciting part. Social media, again, it can be speaking to one person, but again, it's on social media. So obviously the audience is broad. Text messages, just like an email or even snail mail, they could be personalized. How are you writing them? Are you doing a mass text message or are you asking pertinent questions about the individual? Voice to voice, I'm going to tell you as a coach, is really important. I think if you can get on the phone with people or be in person with people and have an actual conversation, that's always going to help you win. And then face to face. And everybody says, I'm better off face to face. I don't like making calls. I appreciate that. Face to face is the best because they get the words we're choosing, the tonality in our delivery, and they're getting our body language. So of course, face to face is time consuming as well, though. Like the phone call, you can make a bunch of phone calls from your desk to a bunch of people. Driving to go be face to face is going to take more time. Both effective, a lot of weight carried with the face to face. But again, if we want to make sure we're having 10 or 20 conversations a day, and 10, of course, is a baseline for breakthrough. If you looked at your goals, you probably know you need way more than 10 conversations a day to build that pipeline of business you're looking for. So those are our connection and trust brackets. So tasks are specific actionable items that need to be completed in the real estate process. They're used to ensure timely TCPA compliant communication with leads and contacts that stays top of mind. You systemize follow-up by reminding you what to do and when to do it across your entire business. People always say, I don't want to put people in my CRM because I don't want people to feel managed. CRM is not to manage our people, it's to manage us and our relationship with our people. You start a 36 Connect, it's going to send you and say, hey, you need to email these people, text these people, so forth and so on. It's going to help you improve conversion by enabling consistent nurturing. Most important word in that sentence. Consistent. Segments your efforts so you can prioritize high value contacts, and it reduces your mental load. Anxiety exists because there's lack of a plan. That's always going to be a true statement. If you're stressed out, it's probably because you have no idea what you're doing or when you're going to do it. Put a plan together. It will reduce the anxiety. You might then feel like, oh my God, now I have to get this thing that I put together done, but at least you've got a plan. As opposed to, I don't know even where to start. And I hear that so often with people. I don't even know where to start. Well, let's put a plan together for sure. Miller's Law. Does anybody know what Miller's Law is? Did I just click past it? I did.
Is that
Oh, Beth.
you need
There
to
he
say
is,
something
buddy.
9 times to make it actually stick to someone else?
What's that again?
Is that you have to repeat something 9 times for it to actually be something that sticks for another person?
No, but I like where your head is at. You guys have heard me say a bunch of times, Rich, tell everybody we're in real estate 7 times before they forget. So close, but here we go. Miller's Law states that the average person can hold 7 plus or minus 2 items. Can hold 7 plus or minus 2 items. I'm reading this and it sounds clunkier than what I want. Up to 7 plus or minus 2 items is probably what they wanted there in my head. In their short term or working memory at a time. You're going to be keeping up with every member of your database multiple times a year while juggling clients, marketing, and much more. No one can remember it all. So just to read that again, and not clunky, I apologize. I think they were missing a word here. Miller's Law states that the average person can hold 7, up to 7 plus or minus 2 items. So the same between 7 and 5. Are we not like that? Why did they not say that?
Between 5 and 9.
Thank you. Yes, yes. There it is. No math was taken here at all. Thank you for that. Thank you for the engineer swooping in. There it is. Somewhere between, yeah, Jesus, Gary, just right between 5 and 9. My mind's melting. I apologize, everybody. Between 5 and 9 pieces of information over the course of the year, talking to the hundreds and thousands of people that you have in your database, above and beyond the business that you're doing, boots on the ground that day. It would be impossible to be able to know what tasks you might want to add or subtract from your daily schedule. So that's Miller's Law, as confusing as that is, and I'll make sure when we teach that next time, I will say between 5 and 9. Thank you. I'm gonna email Jason and be like, bro, worst written paragraph. The only paragraph in North America that's worse than that is reading paragraph 2 on the buyer's agency agreement. That makes me want to take Latin again and jump out of a window. Holy smokes. Is anybody in their command right now? Add a task in command. Add a birthday call. Does anybody have their birthdays for all their people in there? Is anybody tracking birthdays for their people? Does anybody have a good friend that has a birthday between now and the 4th of July? So the first question would be, is that person in your command? If they're not, why wouldn't they be if you have their birthday on the top of your heart? Great question, Coach. You're welcome. So are you adding birthdays? Super simple thing to do. And we got a cheat code here, obviously, at the Market Center, and I know not everybody knows everybody at the Market Center. And I know people love doing this, and I think I'm going to say it. It feels a little lazy when you see on FaceSpace at somebody's birthday and you just jump in and say happy birthday and you're in there with the 8 trillion other people. So when I see that either on, because we list our birthdays at the Market Center in the morning news, and then of course it's also on FaceSpace, I will always text that person personally. Is it me sending over alcohol and a cake? No. Is it me calling them personally? No. Is me texting them personally better than me being one of the 8 million comments on their Facebook? I believe it is. Because then what do you get the next day? Then the next day, the person's like, thank you for all the well wishes on my birthday. And you feel committed to do that because all these people did that. I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm making fun of everybody. I just think the more you can personalize your contact with people, especially on their birthday, and people feel all sorts of ways about their birthdays. I think most guys at a certain age, nobody cares. It's October 10th, by the way, if you're keeping score at home, but nobody cares. Nobody cares. Smart plans are time-saving leverage to ensure that the agent provides value and has mind share for those in their database. They are a coordinated series of marketing and communication activities designed to achieve specific goals. Built around a sequence of touches and tasks, smart plans can go so far as to automate sending emails and more. Drip email campaigns to nurture leads, postcard mailings to target neighborhoods, or social media campaigns to promote open houses can all be accomplished with smart plans. And I would argue an open house would be more of a campaign as opposed to a smart plan, either way. Compliance tip, if anyone asks not to be contacted, make sure you remove that person from any smart plans you're using, obviously. Again, you can go into smart plans and you can find the 36 Connect. You can also see which ones are being made by other people. We talk about best practices and we talk about unique practices. So if you go in and find the 36 Connect smart plan, you'll see that it's like the original one. Then there's going to be bunches of others, and it's going to say this one was made by Dominic, this one was made by Timmy, this one was made by Kellerman. And I'm not saying that you can't use those, because just like if you go to buy something on Amazon, it's going to show you how many people bought it and the rating, and that's good, right? If it's got a 5-star rating, but 3 people used it, if 50,000 people used it and it got a 4.6, that's the one I would use, right? Because so many people use it. And I would also still go in and make sure that it makes sense for me. I'm not saying that a best practice can't be plugged in universally. Although, don't forget, you're going into this person's version of the 36 Connect that they built and they've offered up into the library for the entire country to use. Could it be regionally specific? Yes. Right? Like she's never going to talk about, checking your basement for flooding during the spring, because it's Sedona. There are no basements. They're on slabs, right? Nothing's flooding. You're going to get some sand in your basement in Sedona? Again, there's no basement, right? So we want to be mindful of the fact that somebody might have put something together that's very regionalized. And we want to make sure that we're not, and maybe go in and see what they did for their region, then go grab your original 36 Connect and make one for New England. There's the thought. So a task versus a smart plan, a single specific action or reminder that you create to manage your daily activities, can be associated with contacts, opportunities, or remain unlinked. Can include details like descriptions, due dates, priority levels, and hyperlinks. Hyperlinks. Should it just say, Gary, that can just say links, just say hyperlinks. Gary's so cute. Manually created, I've never hyperlinks. That was crazy. Manually created and completed, and they do not have automated sequence or triggers, right? Then a smart plan, it's an automated workflow designed to manage multiple steps over time. That's why you always see me holding up my Apple phone. Thank you, Debbie. My Apple phone, and yeah, hyperlinks, Apple phones, yep. I'm always holding up my phone on the morning quick start, screaming that this is not your database. This might be your dating machine. This might be your Candy Crush machine. I don't know what you're using it for. And no judgment. Go find the love of your life on Tinder. And this is not doing stuff for you on your behalf while you're doing other things. That's why you move the humans out of here and into your CRM of choice that will do a smart plan. That's going to fire off at 3:20 this afternoon while you're in a meeting at a kitchen table to get your next listing, right? That's why we're using video content, so we can leverage ourselves and replicate. There's another version. Debbie can be at a kitchen table and she can have a video running on LinkedIn. She could have another video that somebody's watching on FaceSpace and another video that somebody's watching on Instagram. So she's in 4 different places communicating with and being present for 4 different people while she's getting that listing. She's building mindshare with 3 others. That's happening because she's running a smart plan that's also sending out texts and emails at the same time. How many people can you be in contact with and be interacting with while you're being with somebody in person? That's leverage. So your phone is not your database. Can't say that enough. I had somebody push back a while ago, like, but I can set up a text and I can have it set to timeout that it will send later in the day. Okay, I'm like, okay, there, you got me. You can deploy a text hours later. Outside of that, it's not doing all the other things. It can include actions like reminders for calls, sending automated communications, or adding contacts to other smart plans. It can be customized, scheduled, and set to repeat. Allow for triggers like auto enrollment based on tags. Designed for automation and scalability. Leverage, right? And ideal for managing ongoing communication and follow-ups. So tasks are going to sit inside of the smart plan. Smart plan is going to tell you to do certain things that will be incumbent upon you to do. Frequently used command smart plans, home anniversary, long-term nurture, which I would say is the 36 Connect. I don't know why they don't have it there. The 8x8, which is 8 gifts and then 8 follow-ups. And the gifts don't have to be crazy, but like an 8x8 could be, I'm going to drop off the yellow book, the whole book about investing and cash flowing properties. I'm going to drop that off at Debbie's office, and then I'm going to circle the wagons with her to make sure she got it and talk to her about it. So it's 8 gifts or 8 pieces of value, and then 8 interactions following up on that. And then promoting your app, right? Making sure that people have the ability to connect with you via the app, which is like a digital business card. Quarterly TCPA compliant calls with contacts, past clients, Warm calls, right, with people that you've already been in contact with, and referral partners. Bi-weekly neighborhood nurtures gives contact information on their current and/or goal neighborhoods every 2 weeks. People love to know what's going on with the market around where they're living and where they're heading. It's an automated email, right? And it sends information about neighborhoods, market trends, statistics, and recent sales. When we were making Command years ago, one of the things that they noticed in Texas while they were building it is if you were giving data on the city or the zip code, people would spend about 40 to 45 seconds on the page. If you drilled down and went into neighborhoods or streets for that matter, the time on page went up to 4 minutes. So the more intricate you get with the detail, the more specific you get with the information, the more time they'll spend on the page. This is important. I think everybody should do this. And I meant to say this earlier, but of course, Gary's smarter than I am, so he put it in here anyway. When you build any activity that's going to go out to your people, I would make yourself a client in your database and put yourself on all the things. When you're building something, it's going to show you like, hey, Debbie, this is what it's going to look like when you send this out on Friday afternoon to all your people that are investors. And you'll look at it. I still think it feels different when you receive it in your email.
Yeah.
And you see the page breaks and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's wildly important that you add yourself as a client in there with your, like, so I would put in Timothy C. Lindsay with all my stuff, and my email would be my timothyclindsay@gmail.com. And I would put myself on all the things I'm creating. Or make yourself like, test client@gmail.com and have it all go into one thing so you're not crowding your own inbox, I suppose. But make sure you have a way to look at what the finished product looks like when it hits you. And I promise you, it's not going to be much different than what you're being shown is going to go out. But just how do you feel when you look at it? Like when you're looking at your stuff, you're just like, if you catch yourself yawning or falling asleep and you have a general interest in your well-being, how do you think the civilians on the other side feel? How does your friend from college feel when she's seeing the email coming from you? Is it Yawnosaurus Rex, or is it like, oh, that's cool. I love the way that looks. That's catching my eye. I think it's important that we beta test stuff and when we make sure that we're looking at what we're sending out.
So I find this is important because I know we've all received emails
Mhm.
that appear to be personal. And then all of a sudden, as you're reading, the font changes. And that means you know that somebody cut and pasted
Yes.
something from another document
AI.
in, right? Or AI.
Yeah.
And these things happen without us realizing. And so being able to see what your product looks like,
Mhm.
because you might be doing some of that, will help you make sure that it looks more personal
Yep.
than cut and pasted.
Yes, absolutely. Making the TCPA compliant calls, set up the neighborhood nurture, use the neighborhood nurture dialogue to call each person you added to Command today. Add those who opt in to the Breakthrough 120 Smart Plan. There's a Breakthrough 120 Smart Plan in Smart Plans in Command. If you're not using Command and you're using some other CRM, I'm sure you can go in and create your own. It might not be called Smart Plans. They're usually called, I've seen most of them are calling them nurtures at this point. And then making sure that you are doing the activities. This is the biggest challenge. We go in and we sign people up, or we start a bunch of people on a 36 Connect. And then it starts asking us, because not all the things are automated. There's going to be some stuff that's going to involve me. When I get a push notification on a day that says you have to call these people, it's their shot at this point in the 36 Connect for them to get a phone call, and then you don't do the phone calls. You can't put people into a 36 Connect and then quote unquote run the 36 Connect and then do 14 of the 36 things and then bitch about the lack of results. You can't join Planet Fatness, never go to Planet Fatness, and then be like, well, I signed up, but I still don't fit in my bikini. Of course you don't, Tim. You should have never put on a bikini. That's disgusting. And above and beyond that, you never got on a treadmill or anything. You didn't do anything at Planet Fatness. You can't just threaten to be there. So if we're gonna start a 36 Connect, let's be mature enough to make sure that we're doing the activities in that before we say that it didn't work. I will use an example. When you go to events, I know Tony Robbins will do this. I know for sure that Tom Ferry does this. If you go to a Tom Ferry event, he will give you a money back guarantee. You could finish a Tom Ferry event or a Tony Robbins event for that matter, and they will tell you if you are completely unsatisfied with your experience, we will give you your money back for the event. Now, the caveat is you have to give them your completed workbook. So you have to have done all the exercises and show them your work, as we remember from fourth grade math class, right? Carry the 4, divide by 3. Like I have to hand in my workbook from the Tom Ferry event from 4 days with all the things done. And their point is, if you went to the gym and got on the treadmill, right, and did all the things, you might be down a couple of carbs. But you didn't. You joined Planet Fatness. Then you went over to Baskin Robbins, also a wonderful institution, right? Yeah, like where did you spend your time? So if you sat in the Tom Ferry event and weren't in there and didn't do any of the things, you can't possibly tell them you want your money back because you were present, but you weren't invested. So please remember that moving forward. Holiday smart plans, and there's a trillion of them. I've realized at this point, every day has about 7 different things. There's like 7 different, I'm going to actually ask standby.
More than that.
It'll be fast. I'm about to ask, hang on a second. Let's see what we got.
Today is Red Lipstick Day. Today.
Chat, just wondering, today, June 22nd, how many different days are today? Like is it National Pizza Day, or talk to me?
Today, June 22nd, is recognized for several fun and meaningful observances. It's National Chocolate Eclair Day and National Onion Rings Day, perfect for food lovers. It's also National HVAC Tech Day, honoring HVAC professionals. On the global front, it's World Rainforest Day, raising awareness about rainforests, and International Being You Day, which encourages self-expression. Additionally, it's National Kissing Day and Pet Choking Prevention Day.
Did she say Pat Choking Prevention Day? So if I'm going to be National U Day, I'm going to get my HVAC guy a chocolate eclair.
And give him a kiss.
After I eat my onion rings. Yes. Yes. We're going to check all the boxes. So making my point, there's a million things going on every day. New Year's Day, well, and I only say that because I know people, like my wife and I have just decided we're doing holiday cards. And our holiday cards go out after Chicken Giving. God willing, you get that before Christmas. I'm still getting holiday cards back from people that don't have the right address. I love all of you. And I know that some people are like, I'm not going to send out a card that says Merry Christmas. My wife and I celebrate Christmas. We send out Merry Christmas because we're the worst people ever. Here's the thing. I think if you're a realtor and you want to steer clear of those holidays and you don't necessarily want to do Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah, then I would invite people. I think it's a great idea to send out maybe Thanksgiving Day cards because those get there before. And I see a lot of realtors, and I think this is super smart too. They just send out a New Year's Day card. They sort of wait for all the mail and all the stuff, and because everybody celebrates New Year's ish, right? You know, and if you have friends that you know celebrate Chinese New Year, that would be a tag, right? They don't get a New Year's card, they get a Chinese New Year's card. But honestly, going through our database, like to the best of our ability, you know, my wife and I know that we have people that are going to be celebrating Hanukkah, and we get Hanukkah cards for them, and we send out a different card. Like, it's going to be fine. Everybody's going to be okay. And choose to do that however you want. But there are 8 million holidays in January, February, and March right there that are easy to play around, to do events around. Fat Tuesday is always fun because that's usually when people are shutting it down, and they're going to try to behave during Lent, maybe. Who knows? Valentine's Day, Pizza Day, Random Acts of Kindness Day. Today is onion rings, kissing, HVAC, and chocolate eclairs. So there's a million. And if you go into the Smart Plan catalog inside of Command, you'll see 8 million of them. Set up your holiday tasks. Choose holidays that work for you. I would say go through, and again, not even worried about sending stuff out. Could you send stuff out? Sure. These could be phone calls too. These could certainly be phone calls too. Like if you have a golden and you know all the people with goldens, or you have a black lab and you know all the people with black labs, I would find out when Black Lab Day is. And we're going back in because I guarantee there's a day. Stand by. Is there a day for celebrating chocolate labs?
Yes, there actually is. December 7th is known as National Chocolate Labrador Day. It's a day dedicated to celebrating those adorable chocolate colored labs and all
Thank
the
you.
joy.
So it's that simple. Like, and as soon as you think about it, you're like, okay, well, what does that look like? I mean, I just asked her, she just gave me the date back. Doyle, how many dogs are we on? 2, 3, 19? I think she's got 2. And people are passionate about it. People like their dogs more than they like their kids. There, I said it out loud. People are very passionate about that. So things, commonalities that you have and that you share with each other, focus on those and don't overthink it. I think we're definitely overthinking too much, for sure. This is important. We talk about energy every class, making sure that you're managing your energy. And in the morning, spiritual could mean whatever you want it to mean. If it's your faith, if it's you doing deep knee bends and yoga, and yes, you could argue that's physical as well, but however you reset yourself spiritually, make sure you're taking time for that. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, talks about the millionaire hour. I think a lot of people, I think some people would call that 4 o'clock in the morning. I call that, personally, I call that 5 o'clock in the morning. I want to make sure that I have some time for me before I get here. Because once I get here, we're off to the races. And as soon as the day starts and the humans wake up, you're not going to have time for you. And I think if you don't take an hour for yourself in the morning, for spiritual and physical and maybe reading, whatever you need to do to make sure that you take some time for yourself, the day gets away from you and you'll spend every day reminding yourself that you haven't taken time for yourself. I had a professor 1,000 years ago that said, if you don't take one day off, you'll take every day off. And I think that's really true. And I think it could happen every day as well. So if you don't take some time for yourself in the morning, before everybody wakes up and becomes part of your schedule. And don't forget, when you wake up, if you jump right into text messages and emails, you've already put yourself on somebody else's calendar. So protect yourself with all that as best you can. Because there's nothing, anything happens in real estate that's an emergency, you should know about it first anyway. You know, your clients are going to get all worked up and concerned and freaked out. And then notice when we get to business, we go to role play and lead gen and lead follow-up. That's your morning, right? Notice it says morning. Afternoon is what? It's blank. What are we putting in the afternoon? Appointments. And if we don't have appointments, what are we doing? Maybe you're taking a nap. Maybe you're going to get hair and nails done. Maybe you're going to get lunch. But after lunch, if it's empty, let's get back into lead generation. Make sure we're having the conversations we need to have. How do people feel about their database? How many people are underwhelmed by their database right now? I need people to raise their hand or unmute or something. Oh, we're only down to 3. We're down to 3.
Hey, I'm still here. I already told you about mine.
I know you did. Dominic, how you feeling about your database, bud? Marion, Dominic, anybody? Database, deep thoughts?
What is a tactful way I can try to get email addresses from all of these one-named or nicknamed people in my database? Because I don't have email addresses for practically anybody. All I really have is a phone number and maybe a nickname. So what's the best way to approach getting the full information, like the street address, the birthday, the everything in there from these people when I don't know, without asking to, like, what do you want my email for? You're gonna just start emailing me all the time?
Yes, and I would address it right away. Just like, hey, Candy, before I let you go, if I could just grab a few pieces of information from you. Here's where I'm at. I just invested in a new database system. I'm reorganizing past clients and making sure I've got everything in one place so it's more concise. And I also want to make sure that I'm fleshing out data on the people that I know. So I have your name, I have your cell phone, pretty sure I have your address from when I do Christmas cards, but is there a mailing address that I'm not aware of? And, you know, I also need, I don't know what I left out, but like, if there's any, because you want 5 things. I want name, I want mailing address, I want physical address, I want phone number, and I want email, right? That seems like that's a good start. And the way I would put it is, I know what you're thinking. I'm not going to just start sending you stuff. Although, as I build my business, what I've found is when I have people's contact information and I've got their contact card all fleshed out, should I be fortunate enough in the future, Candy, to earn the right to serve you and your family, I'll have everything I need to get started. And I obviously would clean it up and be a little bit more concise than that, but I'm just going to lay it on the table. Like, I've got a new tool and I'm going back through my old database and I'm finding I have bits and pieces, and I just want to flesh out everyone's contact card. So in the future, if I earn the right to serve you and your family, we won't have to go through this conversation again. And of course, if there's anything that you do need from me, I would have what I need to make sure I can get that to you in the manner in which you're looking for it. That's how I would do it. That's how I did it, and that's how it worked, because I was just super honest about it. I think if you're real honest about what you're doing, tell them exactly what you're doing, you know? Make sense?
It does, but what about the girl that the nickname is just Breadsticks from the Olive Garden? I don't even remember her real name because all she liked to do was eat breadsticks.
That's it. Yeah, I'm 4,000. Do you have her phone number?
Yeah.
Yeah, call her up and just do it.
Hey, Sticks, what's going on? Like, I don't even know her name.
1,000%. Hey, Breadsticks, what's up? It's Candy. I don't know if you remember me.
I'm not gonna say that to her.
Why not?
Because she ate like 300 breadsticks in one day, and we were, yeah, I'm not gonna call her that. Oh my God. Yeah, I should probably just not get in touch with breadsticks. I think there's some people in there that I just probably shouldn't reach out to.
I would.
I don't know.
Or who did you listen? Who did you work with alongside her at the same time that you could get a hold of and be like, "Hey, remember Breadsticks? What was her actual name?" Right?
There's someone there's definitely people I do know their name and I do still talk to that.
Yeah, so there's your phone call. There's your phone call. I think if we don't exhaust every conversation we have access to, we're missing an opportunity.
You're always so right. Why do you have to say all the right things all the time?
Well, call my wife. She has a list. She has a list of things that I've done wrong. We're closing in. I am by the skin of my teeth closing in on 30 years. Yeah. So trust me, she's bored. All right. So we want to add custom tags. Put them on your Breakthrough 120 Smart Plan. Go in and look at that, compare that to some others, make sure that you're not running something that's similar if you're already running something. Time block your lead generation. How do we do that? Do we have a thing at our market center from 9 to noon every day? Say yes. Yes.
Yes, we do.
Join us for that. At 12 o'clock, we will be heading into that same space. So when you go into kwbreakthroughclub.com, that's where we're going to be at 12 o'clock, and that's where we're going to have the conversation about our interactions and our appointments and our contracts. That's today at 12. And then continue reaching out to people who know, like, and trust you until you've had at least 10 real estate conversations. Not with them individually, but let's make sure that we're having our 10 conversations a day. Bare minimum, right? Because we know it's going to be more than that to get to the number to hit the goals. And then be ready to share your report at the beginning of our next session. Our next session, of course, is Monday. I know I've said this a handful of times. This is the last run that we're doing on Mondays. So we've got 3 more Mondays. And then when we start up again in August, September, October, and November, we're going to teach this class straight through Monday through Friday. That is how Texas wanted it done. I decided to break it out on Mondays because I felt like it just gave a little more oxygen for you guys to go do stuff in between classes, but we're going to A/B test it. And we'll run it in a week's session, Monday through Friday, starting in August. We will do that in August, September, October, and November. We're going to take December off. And then when we come back in January, based on our findings, we'll either run it on Mondays or we're going to run it in a week session. We're just going to see which one works best for the Market Center.
Is there an Ignite coming up anytime? Another one?
Ignite has been sunset.
What do you mean sunset? Like never happen again?
Yes.
Why?
Because they replaced her with this.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Well, so let me say this concerning that though. If you want to go back to the material, don't forget you can go to the KW Learning videos on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I
Click
have
on
the workbook too.
Okay, yeah, all the videos from our last session of Ignite are in the YouTube channel.
Okay, cool.
Where are we? Hang on. All right, so that's it. We are wrapped. Questions, comments, concerned? Concerned? Yes. Questions, comments, concerns? That's what I meant to ask.
So,
Go ahead, Debbie.
yeah, so I come from a generation that had the dial phone when
Yes,
I was
yeah.
growing up. And
Phone on the wall in the kitchen with the cord.
so I'm back to that pyramid that you showed about communication.
Yes.
And at the top, face to face, I think everybody would agree with that.
Wow.
Eye
Oh,
contact,
There you go.
being in proximity with somebody. I want to talk about the next two, voice to voice and text messaging.
Mhm.
My daughter is in her early 30s and she argues with me constantly that text messaging is as good as voice to voice. I don't know if this is a generational thing.
It is. It's okay.
So as much as I love to pick up the phone, I love to meet with people, I'm trying to get better at personalizing text messaging because the client base I'm building are those renters who
Mhm.
tend to be younger that are transitioning to home ownership. So any ideas about, I just want to open up the conversation of the difference between voice to voice and text. And there's some like Dominic, what do you think about text messaging versus voice to voice? You're in that generation.
Well, I think I mean, obviously it depends on who it is. I mean, if you're reaching out to someone who's for sale by owner in their 50s, texting them is probably not going to get you very far, but there's a time and a place for text messaging, of course. And a lot of people in their youth feel that if you're going to call me to say hello and try to spark a conversation, there's not a lot of value to that conversation. So why would I answer the phone? Because most of the time when I answer the phone, it's someone asking me to pay a bill. So I get a lot of people's perspective on not answering the phone and having a conversation through text. But I've also had conversations with my team and people in life through text messages, and I'll write you a freaking novel if you want to keep talking, because I'm not going to sit here and just spend 2 hours or spread out throughout the entire day of just having small talk. I'm not your best friend. So me and you aren't going to have a conversation like that anyways, in person or over the phone throughout the entire day, or even in a short stint, until there's a need to get on the phone. Though, if you're having that conversation and you're going through a questionnaire or whatever it might be, and trying to have a conversation, then it's valid. It makes sense. It's working towards your goal, and it's satisfying their dopamine fix from a conversation. But it comes down to that. I mean, it's just like dating. If you're texting someone that has no interest in you, the conversation's going to seem dry. But if you're texting someone that likes you and you like them, the conversation's going to go great. It all depends on that value of the conversation in a text message, just like a phone call. So I don't really think they're different. I think that there's a time and a place to be utilized, and it's a stepping stone to a conversation at the end of the day on the phone.
I agree with Dom. Well, don't forget to Dominic's point, not even generationally, like, oh, she's in her 20s, she's going to want to text, but don't forget just the way people are wired too, right? Like, and I'm going to say this, which is ironic because I know you come from this background, but I could have somebody who's 29 years old and they're over at Lonza Biologics and they're an engineer and they're very like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
I'm a Talkosaurus Rex. I will talk or text your ass off, right? But you're like, all I asked him was, when is the open house?
Yeah.
Right? And I started talking about Thursday's weather, right? So I think it's also being, and we talked about this earlier, being cognizant of like, how do they learn? How do they want to communicate? Like, is it very clear that they would rather text? And we always ask that at the onset. Hey, best way to get a hold of you. And do you prefer me to call or text when using that number? Right? Because you'll have some people just email unless it's really important, right? Because as they're getting started, but when it gets to that point, I don't disagree. I'm not going to fight to the death on the fact that you have to be voice to voice. I have not yet seen somebody out text somebody who's conversational.
I agree.
Gary has not had anybody on stage that text their way to greatness. They text their way into relationship, right? But you've got to advance it. And I think you're going to get more out of people when you're asking questions and when you're having that conversation. And when the same people that say they'd rather text than be on the phone also say, I'm better off face to face. What does that tell you, right? That the phone puts us in that next level because that phone gives us the words we're choosing. Text only allows us to show them the words we're choosing. Voice to voice allows them to hear the way we're delivering the words we choose. And then face to face is choice of words, delivery of words, body language, right? Which is why, ironically, Zoom, that everybody poo-pooed after the pandemic became an endemic, right? Everybody's like, I'm so zoomed out. Well, she's your best friggin' friend, because if you've been in a one-on-one with me, and I know a lot of people come in and sit with me one-on-one in person, but if you're in a one-on-one with me in person, that's wildly different than if you got me on the phone. And I never have. If you weren't in person with me, I've always used Zoom. It was never a phone call. Because Zoom, when I say something, I can watch your nature change. I can watch the gulp. I can watch the energy change. And I know I'm pushing on a button that as your coach, I need to keep pushing on to get you to unlock, to get you to have the tough conversation, right? And we can't do that via text. And there's no, not that we need immediacy, but I want to catch the emotion and not just the logic of the interaction. And that's best suited when we go face to face. We're never going to win the argument with the generation that's like, and I've joked about this a lot. If I go on my T-Mobile app and I looked at my boys, and Aiden would have maybe a little bit more because I've called him, but Aiden FaceTimes us. Aiden has had his phone they both had their phones since 8th grade. Aiden's probably still under 2 hours of talk time because he FaceTimes Grace, he FaceTimes us, because that doesn't feel like a phone call, right?
It is.
So
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys. We're back on Monday for session 3, and we're going to do 2 more after that. Perfect. Thank you. And Thursday, if you're available Thursday, we're here in Portsmouth in person only for the Halftime Business Planning Clinic. We always do it the last Thursday of June. I think it's the last Thursday of June. Maybe I'm making that up. I think I'm right. And that is this Thursday. And then after that, business planning clinics will be September, October, November, and December. Those, of course, will be getting you ready for 2027. Yes, I just said that. So Halftime Business Planning Clinic here on Thursday. We'll be back for session 3 of Breakthrough on Monday of next week. Thanks for hanging out. Hopefully I see you in about 20 minutes. We will be in kwbreakthroughclub.com for the Midday Protocol. Take care. You're more than welcome.